Hello and welcome to More Than a Game. My name is Tommy C. This week we're back to talk Premier League 2021-2022 season predictions. We're going to preview all of the teams. We're also going to have a bit of a chat about transfers, the new managers in the league. And look, it's just great to have football back. We've had a bit of a break over the off-season. I know there's been Olympics, there's been the Euros and the like, but we're all back. We've got a full panel today. Joining me is Jesse, Andy and George from sunny London, Jordan Henderson or Colby.
That joke definitely worked better live, Tommy.
Look, everyone knows that on the east coast of Australia there's not really much going on, but look, George and Andy, we can live vicariously through you. You're in sunny London. You're in the height of summer over there. You must just be going crazy over there this morning, right? Like, what do you guys got planned for the rest of today?
Might just go outside and have a swim in the puddles on the road. It's that wet here.
Just everyone's just wet for the upcoming season, and it's just caused a flood. So
yeah, absolutely.
All right, look, there's plenty of football for us to cover today. Like I said at the top, we're going to be covering each of the 20 teams, including the promoted teams. We'll be talking a bit about who we think is going to win the league, who's going to be in the European spots. But look, first up, I guess it's just important, I think, to talk about who's going to take the prize at the end of the season. Boys, does anyone think that anyone is going to be able to stop Manchester City this season?
A resounding no from the pod.
I think the team most likely to take points off them is Chelsea, but it's not just those games. It's not just those top 4 for top 6 games. It's the consistency over the entire season where you're just like, that squad's just ridiculous. We've said it pretty much every year since our inception as a podcast, but this time it really looks pretty formidable, especially when Carves United has now joined, and
you got taken Bundes on the bench, then you know you're in trouble.
Who posted that graphic of the one starting lineup versus what the bench would be against that? It's like, it's ridiculous. And either of those teams is the best starting 11 in the Premier League.
It's scary, I guess. After last season, we saw that like City don't have a problem scoring goals, even if they don't have a recognised striker. And it's like, well, Aguero's left, and everyone sort of looks at Gabby Jesus as someone who isn't necessarily like an amazing striker. But last season proved that it doesn't really matter. So if they do get Kane, it's going to everyone's just going to be hanging on for dear life, and they'll be scoring 5 goals a game or something ridiculous like that.
It's just building another platform on the Death Star with more rockets, and like that's
that's 100%.
That is a good analogy. This is like the Death Star 2 now. Instead of like being able to just shoot planets, they can shoot spaceships as well. Sorry, really got into
straight over my head that one, Tommy. We'll move on.
Looking forward to Star Wars round.
Yeah. Boys, I guess at the top I've already mentioned probably the 2 big signings that one's already happened, which is Jack Grealish to City. The other one that's likely to happen, still with a week to go, so plenty of time before the season starts, is Harry Kane to City. Do we actually think that this is actually going to go ahead, the Harry Kane transfer? Jesse?
Go on, Jess.
Yeah, I think before Grealish went through, it felt like it was a done deal. But I think he's in a really difficult position now. Not that I feel sorry for him, because obviously he's just down tools. But he's in a really tricky position now because he has basically left himself like nowhere to move with his own club, and he's basically said, "I want to go," and he did that obviously even before the season finished last year. So he's in a bit of strife now if City don't take him. And I think that's where Levy's got him by the balls, basically, by the look of it. So yeah, that contract extension that he signed, I think last year, has really got him in a pickle.
And I mean, there was apparently a gentleman's agreement associated with that. And I mean, Daniel Levy is not a man that I would make a gentleman's agreement with. But
Daniel Levy is Lord Baelish of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
He's Could I give it a Star Wars equivalent, or?
little finger lever, yeah.
Well, you feel bad for Harry Kane, who sort of had the deal in place last year, thinking, "Oh, all good, all good, all good," and now he's like, "Yeah, we had that agreement, Daniel."
Yeah,
My time to go.
Harry Kane's basically Ned Stark, thinking he's made a new friend.
Oh Lord. But okay. Another transfer that's one's already been completed, and one is likely to go through. I think it's still subject to a medical. On the other side of Manchester this time, though, is Jadon Sancho and Rafa Varane to Manchester United. Boys, how much do you think the Sancho deal is going to, I guess, lift Man United to the next level? Damo, you want to take this one?
Yeah, I'll probably talk a little bit more about it when we preview the teams individually. I've got Man United, so but I think that there's going to be a lot of pressure on Sancho is the short answer to that. And Man United are pinning a lot of hopes on, kind of their revival on the Sancho signing. So yeah, there's a lot of pressure for him to perform, especially early on in the season, I'd imagine.
And especially with Rashford, who's going to be out for the first few months as well. So he'll probably slot straight in to start. So a lot of pressure on a young bloke.
There's a few people that are still carrying injuries from last season. I think Phil Foden is one. Rashford is one, and I think Greenwood as well. He took surgery and missed out on the Euros because of an injury that he'd been carrying for sort of the back end of last season. There's a couple of big centre half signings as well. We got Ben White, Romero to Spurs, and like I said, Rafa Varane. Andy, maybe you're best to answer this one. Who do you think is going to, I guess, be the standout centre back out of those three?
I mean, Varane, you'd say because of his
pedigree.
His pedigree, he probably gives Maguire the partner that he's needed. So I think you will probably see the most impact from him. Romero, however, I reckon is like a fantastic defender that's made for the Premier League. Like, I just reckon he's so good, and I think he's actually great signing for Spurs. Except they'll be annoyed that that guy Paratici, who's the now sporting director, basically sold that guy for nothing to Atalanta a few years ago, and is now paid a massive fee to bring him to London. So I decide for yourselves whether he's like a great businessman or not. I don't know, but
All right, I've got some notes on him later on, guys.
Excellent.
Done right.
Andy, do you rate Ben White though?
Not a hill there on Ben White. Like,
He's not cultured enough, is he?
no, I like a cultured European centre half, so I'll ignore Ben White.
He's probably the closest thing England have had to a cultured centre half since Stones, right?
Phil Jones.
Depends what you define culture is. English culture, maybe Phil Jones.
Yeah, actually, that's
White by name, white by culture.
Ooh.
Apparently, Phil Jones can't get a club. I'm surprised that someone even like Palace can't afford to pay, or can't convince Phil Jones to sign on. But anyway,
Paddy Vieira is not interested in Phil Jones.
One other centre back that this deal was done quite a while ago, and Jesse, I know you're going to be talking about Liverpool a little bit later, but I'll throw to Colby about this one. How much do you think Konate is going to be playing a role at Liverpool this season?
Well, I mean, it's all dependent on Virgil and Joe's bodies, Tommy. He's there for depth.
So
There's talk
that's a
that he
big
could
role.
be yeah, probably a big role, I'd say. I mean, it was exactly what Liverpool needed. We saw last season when they panicked and brought in 3 or 4 trash centre backs to be polite, to cover the gap that was left by Van Dijk and Gomez, and even Fabinho when he broke down after he was sort of put there as an emergency as well. So I think that it's the right signing, and they did it early to give depth to the centre backs just in case any of those fragile centre backs break down again this season.
Is there a curse on the Liverpool centre back position?
Well, Tommy, I don't know whether we're talking about sort of shaman magic or anything like that, but I'm not ruling anything out.
Fair enough. Look, speaking of Shaman Magic, man who's a wizard in the penalty area is Lukaku. He's been strongly rumoured to be returning back to London, back to Chelsea. George, are you excited about this deal, or you think, well, you've tried this once before and it didn't really work out? What are your thoughts?
Oh, I'm very excited. I think he's a different sort of player now, and he's got that experience, at Inter Milan, and his hold-up play is a lot better, and his link-up play is a lot better, and he's in form. So he's coming home, and he's coming home a different guy who when he was signed as an 18-year-old, and then we loaned him out about 10 times. So and a manager that actually wants him and trusts him. So I think it's exciting, and it's a good move, because I think Chelsea were going to try and put all their eggs in the Haaland basket, and I don't know whether we're actually a chance to get him. So I think Lukaku's ready-made, and this team needs a number 9. So, if there's
he's coming back cultured after his time in Italy.
He's had a metamorphosis. He's just blossomed out of those jeans and just come out as a new player.
He's an old pair of jeans.
No pair of jeans can contain them bundas.
Well, speaking of his bunda, he has slimmed down, which I think is a big part of his success at Inter, actually. Like, he was too thick at United.
I'm pretty sure it was when he was at United. We were saying he looked like he played football in jeans and Timberlands. I think he traded those in for a pair of new boots.
He went shopping in Milan.
Yeah. He's got loafers now.
Got the Gucci loafers.
Jenny Craig.
99 shot power in those loafers, eh?
So to answer your question, I'm excited. I hope the deal gets done, and it looks like it will. And I think he's the perfect spearhead for this Chelsea team.
Very good. And one final thing on the topic of transfers, obviously Grealish has gone to City, but he's basically already been replaced with Villa signing Leon Bailey from Leverkusen, Danny Ings from Southampton, and Emi Buendia as well from Norwich. Colby, you're going to be reviewing, previewing, I should say, Aston Villa's chances this season. So I won't ask you, but Jesse, I know you're a big fan of Leon Bailey. But what do you think about the other two signings that Villa have made to replace Grealish?
I think it's fantastic. I think they've done really, really well. Like, everyone else has just kind of been taking their time in the transfer window, and Villa's just come in with, I don't know if it's the Kazoo sponsor, what it is, but they've just come in. I guess obviously knowing from such a long way out that they'd probably lose Grealish does help, but they've just moved so swiftly. And those players, like I'm very excited about Buendia 2.0 this time, not in the Norwich team, but actually in a more established team that look like they could actually support his style of play a bit more.
Championship player of the season last year.
That's right. So, he can carry a team, but also I'm excited to see him in a team which doesn't have to carry them. He's going to be around other quality players. So I expect to see his name as an assist in a number of games this year. I think you'll see him as the assister in the lead up play. But also just going back to Bailey. Bailey's an exciting one, I reckon. I think it's just watch him this year, because I think he loves to bomb down the wing, and that'll add something to Villa's game, especially if Ings is on the inside.
He's a real FIFA career mode kind of buy.
Yeah.
Bailey.
Exciting prospect.
Oh, very good. All right. Look, there's a bunch of brand new managers this season as well. We've got Nuno Espirito Santo. He's moved over to Spurs. Patrick Vieira is trying his first crack at the Premier League as well with Palace. Rafa Benitez has returned to Everton. Cisco Nunez is at Watford. And obviously Thomas Frank is at Brentford as well. Boys, obviously very different expectations for each manager and at each club. What do we think of which manager is going to do the best out of those, I guess, knowing their respective different sort of situations at each club? Damo, you want to jump in?
Yeah, I'm excited to see what Thomas Frank can do. I'm previewing Brentford as well, so I'll talk a little bit more about it. But he did his apprenticeship as an assistant under Dean Smith. So he's got a good pedigree, and the way he played in the championship has been exciting for a couple of years. So it'd be good to see if their free scoring, kind of very open front third can be replicated in the Premier League.
Colby, what about you?
I think out of those, Tommy, it's got to be Benitez for me with Everton. He's still got the and I'm previewing Everton later on, so I won't give too much away. But he's still got Carlo's the results of Carlo's war chest, the embarrassment of riches that's on the Everton roster. So I think out of those, Rafa's probably going to be it for me.
Jesse?
Yeah, mine's actually both of those. I had Rafa and Frank at Brentford for the same reasons the boys have just mentioned. I think actually seeing if an Everton side can have some backbone would be fascinating because they just don't show fight and resolve for a full season. So if he actually can get that out of them, they might actually creep a bit further up the table. And Brentford, well, I was really pleased when they got promoted because they're just a new team, at least the Premier League. And I just want to see what they can do. I think they're quite attacking as well.
Very good. George and Andy, you've got anything different other than Rafa Benitez or Thomas Frank?
Well, I had the new Wolves manager, actually, Tommy. I think you forgot to mention him. Yeah,
I have, yes.
Bruno Lage. Yeah. So
getting large in the Prem.
Getting large. So, I mean, I'm doing a quick preview on Wolves, but basically he's come over from a successful stint at Benfica, albeit a pretty short one. And he's got some big raps on him in terms of attacking football. So might see a different style from Wolves this season.
Andy, anything different yet?
Yeah, actually, I'm keen to see what Nuno's going to do at Spurs. I think even losing Kane, again, will sort of force a bit of a rethink there. And I think that team is you'll probably then see the best out of the counter-attacking players in that team. So I think if you take Kane out and you've got Son and what's the name, Brazilian guy?
Lucas Moura.
And Lucas Moura, I think are like great players for a Nuno team, actually. I'm quite excited to see what he does with them. And again, I'll be talking about Norwich later, but I'm keen to see Daniel Farke number 2.
You're right. That is going to be interesting because I think I didn't consider him as being a new manager, but really it's sort of his second time around. If Norwich aren't at least competitive this time around, then surely he has to get sacked by Christmas time because they were so bad last time, and the fact that they've bounced back and they haven't really invested that much in their squad. And I'm sorry, I'm probably stealing someone's thunder right now, but anyway, look, we'll keep moving then, shall we? Boys, which promoted team do you think is going to do the best this season? Jesse?
I think Brentford. I think my predictions, which could age like milk, but I think Norwich and Watford will go back down, but I think Brentford will survive. So I don't think they'll be quite as successful as Leeds did last year, but I think that Brentford will survive and they'll be looking to establish themselves as a Premier League team beyond this year.
Does anyone think Watford or Norwich are staying up? Both of them, Colby, or
Tommy? You're cutting across all things here, and you're cutting across one of my bold predictions, which is that all 3 promoted teams are going to stay up.
Wow!
Talk about bold.
So that hasn't happened since.
Jesse, don't worry about your predictions. You're fine.
Check the tapes, boys. We're recording.
I feel a lot better right now. Tommy, you just want to open your Christmas presents. You keep asking for previews.
Oh, I know. All right, boys.
You were one of those kids that shook the presents, weren't you, Tommy? You tried to get a peek under the wrappers.
I can't be trusted at home because I find presents as well, even still. Boys, all right, we'll keep moving then. What month does everyone think that Xisco is going to get sacked from Watford, regardless of his league position?
December?
Yeah, I think he'll be doing the thong song somewhere else before Christmas.
Someone had to work that in there.
We've got a listener question from WP Wayno who asks who is going to surprise us this season. Now, that doesn't necessarily have to be a promoted team. It could be one of the sort of mid-table teams, then breaking into Europe or even into the top 4, as sort of Leicester did a couple of years ago, a couple of times now. Anyone got a candidate for a surprise this season? Andy?
I mean, that question was a surprise. Can we?
George, I'll let you handball it over to you instead.
I think, although they had a pretty good season last year, I think possibly your boys, Tommy, West Ham. I think Moyes is got the squad he wants essentially, and building on that, building on the success of last season. If they don't have any major injuries at the back and keep hold of Declan Rice, I think that they might actually mount a serious challenge for the top four. I don't think they'll get there, but I think they might be knocking on that door along with Leicester.
Mate, that is a big surprise to hear anyone saying that West Ham is going to surprise everyone this season, especially with European football. But as you have all said, I'll be talking more about West Ham later. Damo, you got a candidate for a surprise?
I think Newcastle will surprise us, and I don't know whether it'll be a good or a bad surprise. They're a bit of a basket case. They can either be brilliant or horrible in a season. So they're always entertaining to watch, though. But yeah, I feel like at the end of the season, where they finish in the league will be a surprise, whether it's relegation or top half.
Colby, what about you?
Ooh, Tommy, I'm going to talk a bit more about the Villa hype later, so I'll leave them. But I actually think Arsenal could surprise this season. They've had a couple of shit seasons, so it probably speaks to where they are in the pecking order. But I think that Ben White probably helps solidify that defense a fair bit, and I think a couple of the other young players are sort of coming on and developing. So I think they might sneak back into the top six.
Interesting. That would be a surprise for me.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That really speaks to their recent history.
All right, boys. One final one before we get into a little bit of kit chat, and that's about, I guess, Aussies in the Prem. Now, this year with Matty Ryan going to Spain, and obviously Aaron Moy left a couple of years ago, there's no guaranteed starter, sort of week in, week out, Australian starter, I should say, in the Prem. What does this mean for you, though? Are you concerned? Are you just sort of disappointed that there isn't sort of a clear Aussie storyline? Damo, what about you? What do you think?
I think it concerns Optus Sport, but doesn't really concern me. I mean, it's always good to watch Aussies in the Premier League, but I mean, at the moment, we really don't have anyone that's good enough. So
just get on the Chris Wood train, boys. Welcome aboard.
That's it.
Welcome aboard.
I think we're going to have to this year because with I think it's I forget his Callum Watts at Southampton. I think he's probably unlikely to be getting many starts. Might get the odd sub appearance, but I think he's probably the closest we've got to someone who's getting Premier League minutes. So I think we're going to have to get on board with the Wood Express, the One Wood, and just get on board with him, Jesse. All right. And I kind of preempted this a little bit about some kit chat, but boys, I want to know what people think is the best and the worst kit coming up for this season. Colby, you want to go first?
No, I don't, Tommy.
Jesse, what about you? And I'll come back to you, Colby, last.
Well, massively biased, but the one that Colby's wearing is pretty fantastic. I think I mentioned in the group chat that you could open the bowling at 2 and then go to Anfield at 4. With that kit, so it's incredibly versatile.
Is that 10-pin bowling? Or?
you can't see this even on the video version, but I am wearing bowling shoes. So
I actually reckon you could probably bowl in that shirt as well. So yeah, I mean, this is
very versatile,
incredibly versatile. And Jet looks good on Kanate in his transfer video. But I think some other special mentions. When I was, because I'll be reviewing Southampton later on, their third kit's actually quite nice. I actually thought their third kit was quite nice. So, yeah, I mean, to be honest, there's more shockers, in my opinion, across the league than there are great kits, including some home kits as well. So, yeah, I think for me, probably the Liverpool away and the Southampton third will be my picks.
I was actually on kits, boys. I don't know if you've ever seen it or heard of this brand, but Wolves' shirt sponsor. Can anyone have a guess at the not the sponsor, the actual brand?
The maker.
Kit maker.
Yeah, kit maker.
Jesse or Damo? Because I reckon Colby probably knows it. And
no, I'm not across this. I haven't heard about it.
It's Castore. It's sort of. I've never heard of them. It's a brand that looks like an eagle of some sort, or
is that what Newcastle have got as well?
The Newcastle
it
have them
might
as
be.
well. Wow. Okay.
I know that they made like cycling and running kit. I didn't know they made football kits.
Well, there you go.
They're
Wolves-
also making Rangers' kit this year, and also the West Coast Eagles, and I think it's
Ah,
Melbourne
yeah.
Storm as well.
Newcastle as well. So
Yeah, wow.
they're taking control of the Premier League, really, with stranglehold Castoro.
And they're not like Hummel
Like-
that are.
I was going to say, a
They're
bit
not
like
like Hummel.
Kazoo.
Yeah,
the kazoo of 2021.
Yeah.
Boys, one thing I'm noticing about this season's kits is there's a lot of yellow. There's like I reckon this has to be an unprecedented amount of yellow in like away kits and third kits, and I mean there's just a lot of it looking through. Like, what are we making of this?
Reminds me of piss. I hate it.
I think actually a few of them are quite nice.
Yeah, I think you're in trouble after that comment, Tom.
Oh,
Great.
I think there's a lot of 90s throwback designs, which is all back in fashion, all the squiggly lines and the fluorescent colors and all that kind of stuff. So mainly away kits. I don't think anyone's got a home kit that's kind of gone that direction.
They still managed to get a couple of toothpaste kits in there, though. When's that toothpaste color going to fuck off?
On the topic of, I guess, kit themes, I think if there's one thing that stood out to me this year, it was that anyone who has sort of OCD or is very organized is going to hate kits this year, because there's lots of like asymmetric patterns and I'm sorry, George, but that Chelsea kit is the fucking worst thing I've ever seen. Honestly, I want to rip my eyeballs out and just stomp on them.
It reminds me of a Metro bus seat.
Yeah.
So,
Again, it's like
they've
done it again.
Reminds me of. I was trying to make a T-tar when I was 10 years old.
The other one I've been looking at is the Spurs away kit. I don't know if anyone's seen it, but it's I don't even know what. Speaking of, it's some sort of galaxy.
That's the paddle
format.
pop.
It's the rainbow. It's the rainbow pedal pop.
Yeah.
So at least with that, I can see where they're going with it. But that Chelsea home kit, oh man, it just makes me angry.
Yeah.
One that I don't hate. I've got to say, I don't mind the Arsenal home kit. I think it's okay. It's like unremarkable,
Is that
but
Arsenal or Ajax?
Yeah, I just like a nice a nice one. The other one that I was going to mention it later, and Tommy, you'll appreciate this given how much of a piss colour it is. But the Norwich kit, the short sleeve one's okay. The long sleeves, they've got these weird green tubes down the sleeve. It's almost like a shit tribal sleeve tattoo in green down the sleeves, and it looks fucking terrible.
It does look weird.
Yeah, like the short sleeve. Normally, I like a long sleeve kit. That's the first. The other thing I'm going to talk about, on kits, the font, like the you know how you could customize your West Ham kit and you could choose the fonts.
Yep.
Half of the kits have weird fonts. Like I hate the City one because it's Puma, but the text on the back looks weird. I just wish they'd have normal letters. I think that's done. That they've got to get rid of that.
It's like alarm clock font.
Yeah, it's what it looks like.
Like a digital watch kind of thing.
Yeah,
It's just like a Casio watch.
It is alarming, that's for sure.
Oh shit! All right, boys. It's enough kit chat for now. It's time to get into, I guess, the core of the show, and that's our team by team preview. So we're going to be going through each team's chances in alphabetical order. We're going to be starting with Arsenal, and we've already sort of touched upon them a little bit. I think I can't remember who said it, but that they could surprise a few people this season. Andy, he's going to take it away now and talk us through Arsenal's chances for this season. Well, over to you, Andy.
Thank you, Tommy. First thing, I guess we'll just do the quick ins and outs on the Arsenal team. Ben White, we've already talked about. I think he's probably the most notable signing that they've had so far. And notable because they haven't really made too many others, but he's probably the most important in that he finally gives them a decent cultured centre-half to partner up with Gabriel. They've also brought in Albert Samuel Lokonga, who apparently was quite good in pre-season. I don't know how much time he's going to get in the middle. And they've also brought in Nuno Tavares, who, Jesse, you might know more about him than anyone else on the pod, but apparently he's a exciting and pacey player for Portugal. Correct?
Yep.
Tavares, yes.
Correct. Look, Arsenal finished last year in 8th, and I mean, they collected a Community Shield along the way, and that was after probably the worst start in the club's history. this kind of now becomes the watershed season for them because and Arteta's now had 2 seasons under his belt, and many was probably lucky to hang on to his job, and now has to finally turn the boat around, which is the analogy he used for most of last season. It's time for the boat to actually start moving in the direction they want it to.
Andy, I think that's a really smart analogy by Arteta because he didn't specify what kind of boat it was. He didn't say whether it was like a nifty little boat or like the one that got stuck in that canal
in the Suez Canal.
Yeah,
I think it's been there.
I reckon he's giving himself some wiggle room there.
Well, I think re-signing Granite certainly suggests that they want to get stuck in the Suez Canal.
So, Jesse, when we get to my things an Arsenal fan should be nervous about, which I won't do that now. One of them was having Granit Xhaka and the likes of William still on the books. I think while the trajectory for Arsenal certainly improved towards the end of last year, and they did manage to shed some of the players some of the underperforming and overpaid players they needed to get rid of, they haven't quite done that completely. And those 2 guys are ones that are likely to either keep out youngsters from the team, but also not really deliver for them, which is something I think fans won't be happy about. What they do have to be happy about, obviously, is the youngsters that Arteta managed to blood through last year. Obviously, Saka and Neil Smith-Rowe. In Saka's case, I think you also get the benefit of a summer of international football. Obviously, tournament didn't end in the best way for him, but that's an experience that he'll pick up and as you know, a young and sort of confident player, seems to take things in stride. He'll sort of improve throughout the year this year. I also think this is a big year for Thomas Partey, who was injured obviously for a lot of last season, and we kind of forgot that he was there. Between him and El Neni, they've got, he's a fantastic player, but in El Neni they've got a decent backup as well, someone that can sort of patrol the middle. But I think big season for Partey actually after a bit more time in the Premier League under his belt. And for them, what would be a successful season? Colby's hinted that they might surprise us. I don't know if they quite get to the European places, but I can see them maybe jumping up a position or 2 from 8th. So maybe they're going to finish in 7th. 6 is possible, but that'll only really depend on if the teams that finished above them last year drop off.
I think Partey really suffered with all the lockdowns.
Most Parteys did, Jesse.
One other thing to note, obviously, Tommy, you've got here our mascot rating. Gunnosaurus is back and he's here to stay. And that is the one thing, I guess, that the club can thank Mesut Ozil for the last 5 years.
Thanks for the memories, Mesut.
Just bizarre how much, like in hindsight now, just bizarre how much traction that whole sort of story got. Really, I mean, a lot of people in the UK were probably stuck at home, and so that was the one thing that they really sort of could really fight for from their couches. But
the irony of a guy who bled the club of so much cash that they couldn't pay Gunnosaurus, then he goes and pays Gunnosaurus.
Pays Gunnosaurus with their own money. Yeah.
Stonks.
It's, the robbing Peter to pay Paul or robbing fans to pay someone to stand. I don't know. It's
unbelievable.
Oh, you'll love to see it. Alrighty, next up is Aston Villa. Colby, how are they going to react now without Jack?
Here we go, boys. Move over, Big Bundas Grealish, Mummy Grealish, Daddy Grealish. He's out. He's old news. It's Emi Buendia time. It's Emi Buendia season, boys. I'm not immune to hype. I'm not immune to getting swept up in these kind of things, and I'm high. I'm high on the Villa wave, boys. Back from the brink of relegation the season before last to finish in 11th place. Dean Smith's, he's got him playing well now. And we've talked about outs, and I've mentioned Emi Buendia in the signings, and Dean Smith must have just been going to sleep, just thinking signings. Yes, I've got it. And they just sneaked Danny Ings in there in a 3-year deal. He's got 40 goals in the past 2 seasons, and he's somehow still only 29. If his body can give him another season or 2, that could go really quite well. And there's talk he's going to play a 2 up front with Ollie Watkins. So being fed by Emi Buendia and Leon Bailey, there could be a bit of creativity backing those 2 up. But Emi Buendia, as Andy said, dominated the championship last year, got the championship player of the season and Norwich's player of the season. He's still only 24. I think Emi 2.0 is going to be one to watch. Fans should be excited with replacing Grealish with the next Grealish and picking up Ings out of nowhere and grabbing Bailey, who could, turn out to be a decent player himself. He still hasn't really shown it in terms of output for Leverkusen, but he's quite exciting as well. They'll be nervous about the likes of Leon Bailey, who's a bit injury prone, Danny Ings, who we know is a bit injury prone, and if the whole project sort of just doesn't click together. But they've got a really stable defense of Copa America champions and players who have played in the Euros as well. So they're pretty solid at the back now, Aston Villa. So I think they've got a little bit to be nervous about, but it's backed up a bit. One to watch, it's got to be Emi Buendia. Very exciting player, and we're really keen to see Emi 2.0. Successful season is improving somehow on the 11th place finish last season, which no one expected ever. We all picked them to get relegated. And I think they can do it. I think they're going to finish around in the top 10. So I think they're going to finish in the top half, even as high as sort of 7th or 8th, I think. So, I think they can do it.
Are you officially declaring Buendia as one of your boys there, Colby?
I think he's got to be.
Yeah. A lot of potential there. I actually think that the great thing about Villa, I know this doesn't happen with every club, but I think the best possible thing you can have if you have a good season in the Premier League and you're rising is to finish just outside the European places and then have a good transfer window like they have, because you are then just in that perfect position where you don't have European football, and you can actually, if West Ham does struggle a little bit with European football, you can overtake those clubs in the ladder. So I think they're in a perfect position. I mean, you're right, it might not click. Potentially, there's always that risk, but they are in such a good position. It's hard to see them not improving from here.
Burnley were the ultimate case a couple of years ago when they made European football and then almost got relegated the season following. So it can be a bit of a poison chalice, I think, for a lot of teams. So I agree that I think Villa are really nicely placed, even without Jack Grealish. Anything else, Colby?
That's it for me.
Alrighty, on to probably one of the most interesting teams in the Premier League this season. Brentford, they've come up from the Championship, and now Damo's going to walk us through how they're going to go this season. Damo, take it away.
Yeah, so Brentford, they finished 3rd in the league last season in the Championship, came up through the playoff final. I've got a few interesting points here about Brentford. I think if you haven't heard the story of the owner, Matthew Benham, who is a statistician, worked in statistical modeling and made millions of dollars in professional gambling. So he was a boyhood Brentford fan. He went to their games as a 10, 11-year-old, and that they were on the brink of collapse. I think it was 2011 or 2012. And he donated, I think at the time was £500,000 to keep them alive.
Oof.
And he donated it as a mystery investor. And it came to light about 6 or 7 months later that it was him, and then he was there now investing more to become the owner of the club. So, and since then he's changed a lot at the club. And I think one of the most interesting things about them, and he likes to deny it, Matthew Benham, the owner, and that they work a lot off this statistical modeling, and they're a money ball kind of club, based off the baseball kind of theme from the early 2000s. But I think the most interesting thing that Brentford have done is they've completely thrown away with their youth academy and a reserve side, as is traditional in English football. They've set up what they call the Brentford B team, which for them is exclusively 17 to 21-year-olds who play a season's worth of friendlies against both senior men's teams from lower divisions and conference and lower leagues there, as well as the elite academy sides from big clubs. So I think it's really interesting, that approach, and they've graduated a lot of players from that B team into the first team that have played well, and another one this year that a lot of people are very excited about. So they're doing a lot of things well at Brentford at the moment, as you can tell. And apart from, they obviously lost Ollie Watkins and Ben Rama last season, but over this off-season, they really haven't lost anyone. They got rid of a bit of dead weight, some players that played barely any minutes last year, and they've brought in Christoph Ayer from Celtic for just over £15 million, who I think is going to be a brilliant signing and shores up a bit of a leaky defence that Brentford had last year. So another great signing there. They brought in Frank Onyeka from Midtjylland. Interesting fact that Matthew Benham also owns Midtjylland. He
of course he does.
He used that club as a bit of a prototype for how he was going to run Brentford.
Get Awer in.
Yeah, get Awer to Brentford next is what I'm saying. And then George, I don't know if you knew who he was, but Miles Pett Harris, who came from the Chelsea academy side, under 23 side. And Thomas Frank has actually said that he expects him to play a lot of minutes in the Premier League this year. So they got him in for £1.5 million. So if we're not talking potential undervalued players as a Moneyball style, then what are they doing buying someone like him?
I think you could almost make a first 11 out of Chelsea under 23 players that have gone to other teams this year and will probably play minutes too.
Probably very easily. I think if you're a Brentford fan, you've got to be obviously excited about, probably in a lot of their lifetimes, the first time in the top flight. It's been 74 years since they've played in the top flight. So being in the Premier League is exciting. They've got a brand new stadium, which they have built, and they'll debut in this season. Unfortunate that their old stadium, Griffin Park, didn't get the send-off it deserved with the fans, but it is what it is. I think I was talking about Thomas Frank earlier and about the style of football he plays, which is a very free-flowing in the front third, high-scoring kind of style. I think if you're a fan, you'd be nervous to see if that could translate to the Premier League. We often see teams come up from the Championship that struggle to turn that into a style in the Premier League that's effective. But like I said before, they've shored up their defense, but I think they'd also be nervous about leaking goals and turning games into a bit of a shootout like Leeds did last year. They want to avoid that, and I think that's why they brought that big money centre half in. One to watch has got to be Ivan Toney. Last year, he broke the Championship record with 31 goals in a season. He's finally in the Premier League. Fun fact about him, he debuted for Northampton at 16, the youngest player to ever debut for them in the first team. He had a move to Newcastle that never really worked out. He was there for a couple of years and it didn't really work out. And he cut his teeth in League One, Peterborough. And then last season was his first breakout season in the Championship, and he scored 31 goals. So if he can replicate half the form he had last year, he'll get a bag full in the Premier League this year, I'd imagine. I also think the other one to watch is Ayer, the centre half that they just signed. I feel like it's going to be a bit of a Van Dijk situation, straight from Celtic into the Premier League, have 1 or 2 seasons at Brentford, and then it's a big money sale for Brentford to make a bit of money from him. So it's a bit of their business model in a way to kind of make money off players like that, as we've seen with the big sales of Watkins and Ben Rama. So
he's certainly going to be tested, Damo.
That's right, he will.
Thomas Frank's the kind of guy you can imagine if you're at an art exhibition having an incredibly challenging conversation about a piece of artwork with him over a glass of Pinot. What do you think?
Interesting fact about Thomas Frank, he's actually never played professional football. I think he's the only manager in the Premier League this year that never played professionally.
He's an artist. He's an artist.
He's an artist, yeah. I think a successful season for Brentford is staying up. That's really all they need to do, is stay up and assure themselves a spot in the Premier League for next year. I feel like they'll finish 15th, that middle of the bottom half kind of pack. So
hopefully the Viagra works for them then.
Hey.
and their first game, I think it's on the opening night of the Premier League, the 13th.
Yeah,
of August.
against Manchester United as well.
Against
so
Arsenal.
Arsenal,
yeah.
sorry. Yeah.
That's a free flowing, free scoring game right there.
So that's going to be the atmosphere there is going to be amazing. I've got a guy from my work's a Brentford season ticket holder, and he hasn't had a holiday in about 2 years, and his wife asked him to go on holiday in mid-August, and he said, "There's no way in hell I'm going." So, I've waited so long. So yes.
Is he getting divorced or is he going to the game?
He's definitely going. Yeah, he's going to the game. I don't know about the status of the relationship, but I think he'll be a happy man. Should be a pretty exciting one.
I'm a big fan of the Brentford kit, obviously, because it reminds me of Sheffield United, and I've kind of adopted them for this season since Sheffield United aren't there. But the gambling sponsor, Hollywood Bets, I don't know if anyone's ever heard of this, but it's another gambling sponsor that the Premier League could do without. So it's a bit of a drop in my kit rating there. But boys, I wanted to talk about Buzz and Buzzette, the mascots. Now, I'm a big fan of a bee mascot, and when you've got Buzz and Buzzette, and I've got a little photo of them there if you can see them.
They got blackface.
Yeah. I was about to say.
I don't know about this, Damo.
I'm giving them a 9 out of 10 just because I watched a video of them earlier buzzing about Brentford's ground and buzzetting about Brentford's ground, I guess you could say. And they look like good fun. So hopefully we can get to see a bit of Buzz and Buzzette this year.
I want to see them rumbling with Harry the Hornet when they play Watford.
I think Hornets are usually bigger, right? I think Harry fucked them up.
But
there's two of them. I don't know.
Yeah. And that's it for Brentford.
Damo, on the topic of the kit, one thing I do want to point out is that this season I think there's a real return of striped jerseys that still have stripes on the sleeves. Over the last couple of years, we've seen striped kits that have like block sleeves, and they just look shit. So really happy to see stripes back on the sleeves this year. That I agree, that kit looks really nice. I'm really a fan of it as well. Next up is another team that wears stripes. That's Brighton Hove and Albion. Obviously, the Matty Ryanless Brighton Hove and Albion. Their owner, who I don't know if we talked about in previous seasons, is Tony Bloom. He's another gambler, of course. But importantly, his nickname is the Lizard, which that's just weird.
Everything you need to know, yeah.
Last year they finished 16th, but they were 13 points above the relegation zone. So sort of where they finished is a little bit misleading in terms of how the season went. And look, they did actually have a really bizarre season in terms of Brighton was sort of the XG poster boys of Europe because whilst they actually played some pretty decent football a lot of the time and actually didn't concede a huge amount of goals, their XG underperformance was really exemplified by, and I mentioned this on the end of season review show about that game against Man United where they hit the post, I think it was 5 times.
Trossard, and Tommy, yep. I had him in fantasy.
Yeah, you'll never forget, and you'll never forgive either. But that was Brighton's season in a nutshell. And since I guess the end of season show, it's since been revealed that if Brighton had performed to the XG, I think they would have finished in the top 6. So this is a good team that really just needs to take its chances. So it'd be very interesting, I guess, to see if Malpay, the Brighton striker, can actually take his chances this year, and Trossard as well, and that really is Brighton's season. I think Jesse, you've been spoiled by the Trossard or bitten by the Trossard bug as well, haven't you? I think you had him in fantasy last year or the year before. But look, that's really Brighton's season in a nutshell is whether or not they're going to be able to perform to and finish off chances. So I guess that's the exciting thing, is that I think they're going to be a defensively sound team that's going to create good chances and play pretty decent football. But just whether or not I can't imagine being a Brighton fan and watching that team every week and just wanting to probably put your head through a wall because you're so frustrated with that team. Nervous about the team probably having another season of relative underachievement, and probably also a little bit concerned about Tariq Lamptey's injury record. He hasn't been at the club very long, but he's shown that he's a real talent, but does seem to be prone to the odd injury though. So bit of a concern, I guess, for Brighton fans. What's a successful season for Brighton? I think it's finishing mid-table and maybe a cup run. I think they're very capable of finishing mid-table. In fact, I've actually got them finishing above West Ham, and I think they're going to finish 11th. And also a cup run is not out of the question either. But I think 11th is a very achievable goal for Brighton this season. They're another club in terms of kit that have got stripes and have got stripes on the sleeve, which I think look great. All of their kits this season, I think, look really solid. They've got obviously the blue and white stripes as their home kit that everyone's familiar with. They've got a teal home kit, away kit. And then their third kit is block urine yellow as well. So. But I actually really like all of their kits. I give them a 7.5 seagulls out of 10 because safe but solid, all of their kits. And that's Brighton. So next up is Damo with Burnley. Damo, can Burnley be steered, I guess, away from the relegation zone this year, or are they doomed?
In short, no. I don't think they will. Obviously, they finished 17th last year. A bit of a rocky season for them, particularly with injuries. A lot of players out. Sean Dyche, this is his 10th season in charge of Burnley. It feels like he's been there for even longer. They've got new owners, which they took over halfway through last season, I'm pretty sure. US-based investment firm who have promised big investment into the club. They've also said that they're not going to needlessly spend, tens of millions of pounds on players. It's going to be more of a AI-based method of buying players. So it's interesting that a few clubs have now said that that's what they're going to do.
So it's Moneyball, but being run by Siri.
Essentially. But they have invested a whole bunch of money already. Significant investment into the academy and youth setup at Burnley. They've taken them from a category. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of how the academy systems work, but a category 3 academy to a category 1 academy is an enormous step up. I think there's only 15 category 1 academies in the UK. And they have to meet a bunch of certain criteria in terms of facilities and games played against specific opponents. And so it's really, really big for Burnley that's what their focus is now developing players. But I also feel like that's a bit of even if we get relegated, at least we've got a good academy now, kind of move. So it's a bit unsure of that was the initial investment from the new owners. You would think that the first thing they would do is buy players to ensure that their status in the Premier League, which they haven't really. They bought one very promising centre half, Nathan Collins from Stoke. They paid 14 million for him, but how much game time is he going to get behind Ben Mee and Tarkowski? He's a backup, and I think he's better than a backup for a Premier League side. So he's their only purchase so far. I think they need to buy some more players, and I think we'll see we'll see them do more business before the window shuts. I think if you're a Burnley fan, you'd be excited about seeing if the new owners can live up to what they've said they're going to do. And having a fully fit team. Obviously, last year they had so many injuries in their team. And over the summer, all their players have had a full off season and a full preseason. They only had one player went to the Euros, and he played about 13 minutes in the whole tournament. So they're all fully fit and ready to go. But obviously, you'd be nervous about getting relegated. They've got a paper thin squad. We saw that last year. They're aging players that are going to be more injury prone. So yeah, they could be in big trouble if players get injured again and they don't bring anyone in to replace them. And then obviously the rumors still circulating about Dyche's future. He's on the last year of his contract, hasn't signed a new one. Tarkowski's on the last year of his contract, hasn't signed a new one. It almost feels like they're kind of waiting to see what happens with Burnley before they sign a new deal. And we'll probably know by Christmas. If they feel like they're staying up, they'll have signed new deals, and if they feel like they're not staying up, they'll have gone somewhere else by January, I'd say.
Problem is, they always start terribly. Burnley, they always have a shocking start, and then they just somehow somehow manage to get away from the cliff face in the second half of the season and survive again. But they always start poorly. Like you look at them coming up to Christmas, and I'm pretty sure he's under pressure every Christmas for his job, and then he somehow survives. So I wonder if they'll buck that trend this year.
Yeah, and look, they need to score more goals. Obviously, they scored the third lowest amount of goals in the whole league last season, and they need someone to take a load from Big Woody. They need someone.
Well, I mean, there's a striker you can hang your hat on.
So I do think they need to bring in a backup. They're the one to watch for them. It's hard to go outside of Dwight McNeil. He's really the only player in their first team squad who's under the age of about 26 or 27. And he's obviously their kind of star marquee man at the moment. He's worth the most, and a lot of their creativity in the front third comes from him. So he needs to stay fit. Is someone going to say something?
It seems incredible that McNeil has gone from being a young player, sort of who's punching above his weight, to within 2 years now being the big star at this club. And like McNeil's good, but he's not that good that you want to be pinning your whole season's hopes on him, I think.
I think it also kind of highlights how poor Burnley have been in bringing players in. That they've stuck with the status quo for the last 3 or 4 years, and Dyche hasn't changed anything in terms of tactics, players, nothing. Nothing's changed.
I was about to say this. It's a bit hard for Dwight McNeil when Dyche is just saying, "All right, yeah, just get up on the left and whip balls into Ashley Barnes and Chris Wood, and there you go." Like, he's got nothing else around him, no tactical flexibility, and nothing else by way of development. I think if he went to a different club or Burnley played in a different way under a different manager, you'd see him develop a little bit differently.
He's a cultured left foot that's stuck in a country that wants to leave the EU, and poor bloke just needs more culture around him.
Brexit means McNeil.
I think a successful season for Burnley is improving on last year, and any improvement on last year, and that's goals scored, that's points that they get, and it's finishing, well clear, or not well clear, but comfortably clear of relegation is a successful season for them. But and then the other big one is keeping Sean Dyche. I think that's what they need to do that, but like Jesse was talking about before, starting quickly is going to be hugely important for Burnley this season, because if they don't, I can see them getting relegated. If we're looking at October, November, like end of November, early December, and they're struggling down the bottom of the league, I think that's where they'll stay. But if they start well, I can see Burnley finishing 16th, 10, 15 points clear of the relegation zone, comfortably staying up again. But it feels like it's the same thing every year at the moment. It's just treading water, and there's no real change. But, I think that's where the fans will want the new owners to kind of do something about it. But moving on to their kit, it's the classic, claret with the blue sleeves. But I'm not too sure on the pattern on the sleeves of this kit. It's a real bit, it's swirly 90s areas on a basic Burnley kit. I'm not sure about it.
Really un-Burnley, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very un-Burnley, but it's another Umbro kit it's very basic design, and I like that trend from Umbro this year. But boys, we'll go into mascot chat again. I brought up the bee early. I'm a fan of a bee mascot. Funnily enough, Burnley have got Birdie B. I'm giving Birdie B a 10 out of 10, only because he once famously rugby tackled a naked pitch invader. So hopefully we can see more of that from Birdie B. And when Brentford go up against Burnley, we get the Battle of the Bees.
Look, he's also got the advantage over the Buzz and Buzzette, the fact that he doesn't have blackface on, so that's also a positive too. So.
You've got Watford, you've got Brentford and Burnley. What you've got is a three-way or a B-way.
Bernie, the PCB.
There's a lot of buzz. Yeah, a lot of buzz in the Premier League this year.
Unfortunately, there's not much buzz around Burnley, and that's it for them.
Oh, wow. All right. Let's keep moving though, shall we? Next up, George with his famous Blues, Chelsea. Take it away, George.
Thanks, fellas. I think just if we listen to the tape last year, I made a couple of bold predictions, and one may have come through.
We're recording, George.
One may have come through in the end there. So No, boys, just a pretty quiet pre-season for the European champions. Last season finished fourth. Just threw that in there. The last season was obviously a pretty dramatic season with the sacking of Lampard, bringing in Tuchel, and then sneaking into the top four, basically, and holding on the last day of the season. So I think this year it'll be a building on that solidity and consistency that they sort of tried to put together towards the end of last season. And I think Chelsea were much better in the Champions League and European games than they were in the Premier League, and also they were much better against better teams, as opposed to managing to collect points in the league against lower opposition on paper. So I think the key thing for them is really the chances created versus chances scored, and obviously they'll be looking to address that this year. With bringing in a striker and most likely to be Lukaku. So at the moment, there haven't really been any ins, which is unusual. But also, if you think back to last season, they did bring in a lot of guys like Havertz, Werner, Mendy, Thiago Silva. So you had a lot of guys coming in late last year, right when the season started. So I think there won't be a lot of movement. There's also been rumours that Zuma will go out and Koundé will come in, which should be a good acquisition at the back. But I think the key thing for Chelsea is figuring out how to work so I mean your back 4 or 5 is pretty sort of locked in with your Jorginho and Kante in midfield, and then it's just looking at who's actually going to play up front and on the wings. And so you've got an embarrassment of riches. You've got Pulisic, Hudson-Odoi, Ziyech, fitting all those guys, Timo Werner as well, fitting all those guys in to that front 4 is going to be interesting, and Havertz as well, who sort of kicked on late last year as well, playing in that sort of false 9 role up front. So it'll be one for Tuchel to figure out if Lukaku comes in. How that'll work.
Yeah, where do you see Werner being used if Lukaku comes in? Because obviously we saw him as a 9 vast majority of last year. Are they going to play 2 up front, or is he going to start from the wing?
He'll definitely start from the wing.
Yeah. I think he'll be using that pace to bring the drink on the pitch.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think he'd play off Lukaku, either him or Havertz, or he'd be out wide. But he's been and Tuchel has sort of been modifying his wing backs. So sometimes against better teams, you'll have a more defensive-minded wing back, but then sometimes against weaker teams, you'd have a Hudson-Odoi or Pulisic playing wing back. So that's how he's going to try and, I think, figure that out. And then Werner and Havertz will try and play off Lukaku, because as you guys might have known, with Lukaku playing off Lautaro at Inter was exceptional. So I think they might try and replicate that if they can. That's about it. I think the only major out might be Zuma, I think, and then obviously I don't know whether you saw it. There was an article this week saying Tuchel and his team wrote down the amount of players in the squad that he had this week, and it got to 42. So then there needs to be and you've got your guys who are coming back from loan and haven't been re-loaned. Your Loftus-Cheeks and those sort of guys. You've still got Zappa Costa on the books and guys that just haven't been able to get moved. So
they're the guys that turn up at Burnley on transfer deadline day.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
So there'll be a lot of guys. Conor Gallagher was re-loaned out. He had a pretty good season last year, but he's been loaned out. But I think the major outs of Zuma, I think, might be, and then you'll get, Bakayoko's back in the squad. Remember him from a few years ago. So it's crazy. But in terms of what fans should be excited about, I think having a consistent season and being able to see some goals flow in the net. So there was a lot of games last year and where chances were created and not finished, and that's partly to do with Tammy Abraham as well missing chances, Timo Werner missing chances. So fans should be excited about having a reliable number 9 if Lukaku comes in. If not, it'll probably be more of the same, given how we'll we'd be relying on Werner and Havertz and Abraham if he doesn't get sold.
George, I read this week that Jorginho was Chelsea's top scorer in the league last year, which blows my mind.
Seven goals, I think it was, and most of them were by the penalties.
7 penalties.
Yeah.
So hard to fathom.
Surely Werner and Havertz, irrespective of whether they get a striker, George, surely Werner and Havertz lift this season and click in the Premier League and they're going to score more than 7 goals.
Yeah, you'd hope so.
Otherwise, Chelsea are just a London Brighton. Really,
I think it's a horses for courses thing though, because like Werner was like one of their best weapons against City. Like he didn't put the ball in the net, but he basically scares Pep shitless every time they play. Like his speed. So like if he plays Lukaku in one game, he might use Werner in the next just to rattle a few of the big teams with his pace. So I think it's actually going to be insane if he has both like a person like Werner in the team and Lukaku. I mean, he can basically just cater his starting 11 to whatever he wants, and playing European football will mean that he can do that. So
but if you've got you basically had Jesse and George, you basically had Werner and Havertz were a huge handbrake on the team last season in that they weren't performing, and then you had Ziyech, who looked really great and then got injured. And if you got the 3 of them back and in good form, and Ziyech looks in good form in the preseason, and so do Werner and Havertz actually. And if you get them firing, 3 new signings right there.
Like a new signing.
There it is.
Like a new signing. Yeah. So I think the one to watch will just be how he fits all those guys in, especially if Lukaku comes in. What I'm nervous about, just not nervous, excited about going back to back in the Champions League. So I don't think that's ever been done before. So I think that I'm a bit nervous about that, but I'm backing it to happen. I think we're a better cup team, better cup team than we are in a season. So I think the real thing I am nervous about is just that consistency.
Just note what time George said that on this pod, so we can
bookmark that.
Easily find that.
Where do I think Chelsea will finish? I'd say second. In the Premier League. Yeah, I think it's going to be out of us and Man Utd challenging City. So I think, sorry Liverpool fans, but I think that'll be it. Other things to note on the kit, we've discussed it, the old bus seat. So yeah, the less said about that, the better. And in mascot chat, so Stanford the Lion has a new female companion, Bridget. So there you go. So Stanford's got a partner now. So that's excellent. Yeah.
Endangered species.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Look, moving on though, but before we do though, the last team to go back to back in the old European Cup was Milan in 89-90 and in 89 and 90. I do note that I think Valencia did make back to back Champions League finals in around 2000 and lost both of them. But anyway, yeah. Moving on though, onto Premier League though. Next up is Jesse with who I think are probably one of the most fascinating teams of the league this year, and that's Crystal Palace. Take it away, Jesse.
Yeah, it's not something we've heard in many preview pods. Palace being the most fascinating team, but this year will be fascinating. I think most people would have their money on Vieira being the first manager sacked. Whether or not that happens remains to be seen. But I have to say they've done a fair bit of business already. Not extraordinarily exciting business, but they have done some business. So like as far as the ins go, one of the ones I'm excited by is Joachim Andersen from Fulham. I think he's actually a really good centre-back and he made a big difference to Fulham. So it'll be interesting to see how he slots into Palace, considering that they've had like Gary Cahill there for the last couple of seasons. So now they need a new playing style, new manager. So it'll be interesting to see how he slots in. He's effectively come across from Lyon. Conor Gallagher, that George mentioned earlier from Chelsea. So he was playing for West Brom last year. I think he played a fair bit of, had quite a few minutes last year. So he's pretty well established in the Premier League now too. So, and he's still very young. So that's an exciting prospect to watch for Palace. I think one of the most disappointing things for Palace is Eze's Achilles injury, because he was he was by far and away one of the most exciting players for Palace last season, and you would think that he would have been one of the main players for them this year as well. But that Achilles injury, I'm not sure what the return date is expected to be, but I don't think it's meant to be until the other side of Christmas, maybe. So that's pretty devastating for him and Palace. An exciting news, they've given Nathaniel Klein a contract extension. You'll be pretty excited about that. Yeah, so that's pretty exciting. They have cut adrift a few players which you've associated with Palace for years. Van Aanholt has gone to Galatasaray. Andros Townsend has gone to Everton, and one of them is sideways.
You're going to have to give us just the highlights because there's a lot of players they released.
Yeah, like they have released a lot of players. They've released Sacco, McCarthy, Gary Cahill's a free agent, both on and off the pitch. So it is exciting times in the sense that Palace could play a new brand of football. But I mean, the obvious thing to be nervous about, life after Woy, is lack of stability in results, because I mean, Woy knew what he was doing. He just ticked along, got very close to relegation a couple of times, but managed to keep them above. And I think most people will appreciate, even before they see what the next manager does, how well he did to keep Palace up for those seasons. So now the challenge is, can they actually improve on that with a new style and a manager who doesn't have the hottest track record? Let's just say that it's going to be very spicy if he has a couple of losses for him to cut across to Sky Sports studio and they have Keane on the other line. That will be very spicy. So ones to watch, guys. I'd say Anderson. Nathan Ferguson was the other player. He didn't get a chance last year. I expected him to come back last year, but he's an exciting player who came across in West Brom. He's a fullback. So if Nathan Ferguson's one I'd keep an eye on as well. What's a successful season is mid-table. And if we move across to the Kits, my predicted finish, by the way, for them is 16th. So it's not going to be a great season, but I think they'll survive. The Kits, which I have dubbed in the document, I don't know if you've seen them, but I've given the home a 7.5 out of 10. Pretty solid. It's actually quite a nice kit. The away is kind of the standard.
Sorry, Jesse. Jesse, is that home kit? Is that diagonal stripes, or is that like a triple sash?
No, it strikes to me, mate. I mean, I don't. Some people just want a sash, mate. You just stop trying to make a sash out of nothing, all right? It's a stripe. But the away kit is, let's take it or leave it. 6 out of 10.
I'm with Tommy. It's a piss yellow, disgusting kit. I hate it.
Yeah.
I'm with Andy and the boys.
And the third kit. The third kit for bonus points.
That's bloody Coventry's kit.
Yeah, I was going to say it'll warm your heart, Tommy, on Football Manager. But yeah, no, it's pretty average as well. So I think the home kit's probably the pick of the bunch there, boys. So yeah, Crystal Palace. And the really sorry thing, I'm not sure whoever, I think it was you, George, that previewed them last year, but I don't know if everyone's heard the news that unfortunately Kayla the Eagle, the mascot, had a heart attack last year on June the 19th. So unfortunately, there's no Kayla the Eagle on match day. The
Forever in our hearts, Kayla.
The club expressed deep sadness at her passing. Back to you, Tommy.
Kayla, I aid. All right, let's keep moving, shall we? From just like Andros Townsend, we're going from Crystal Palace to Everton now. Colby's going to be taking it away with Everton now. So, Colby, over to you.
Just as exciting as Crystal Palace, if not marginally more so, and that's really not saying much, boys. So I mentioned this earlier. They finished 10th in the hyped Carlo season with James, DCL, Richarlison leading the line, Doucouré and Allen in midfield, and England's Pickford in the nets, and still somehow managed to finish 10th with Carlo at the head of that squad. Now they've got the squad, but Carlo's off to bigger and better things. Thinks he's having a late career revival. But now they've brought in Rafa, the Liverpool legend himself, to basically do a Newcastle 2.0, and basically the board have said to him, look, we're not giving you any money, but just please make our piece of shit a little bit better. And so what have they done with that? They've brought in 2 half Jamaican Brits with no end product, and they've gotten rid of, 2 blokes with not much end product. So it's equilibrium at Everton, boys. I should specify who we're talking about. It's Townsend and Damari Gray that have brought in. Get ready for some runs up the wing and some inaccurate crosses or inaccurate shots at goal.
Townsend's got at least one banger a season in him, though.
That's right. He's got a banger in him, and then 27 row Z crosses.
Colby, I do want to say that I think it's at Kazanaki, who follows us on Twitter. He was saying that this is, I think it's like 400 or 500,000 pounds a week that they've dumped in wages in like Balassi, Bernard, Walcott, Josh King, and Balassi. Well, I think I've already said, but huge amount of wage bill that they freed up, and it remains to be seen.
I didn't even realise Balassi was still signed to Everton until I think he was on the outs.
He was in Portugal. Yeah. But he was garbage there. Like, granted, he did his ACL and he was never the same player again, right? But yeah, huge amount of money that was.
Yeah. Balassi was my boy when he played for Palace. I was good, all about him. But yeah, once he did that ACL, dead to me. But Bernard, he's gone to the UAE. Josh King's off to Watford. Basically, I think net position for Everton in terms of signings is like BAU, but they do still have those really quality players for now, and that's I think what the fans should be excited about. They've got James, they've kept Richarlison, DCL's still there. They should be nervous about any of those players going. To be honest, if Everton start to not be able to hold on some of those really quality players, that would be a nervy time for Evertonians. In terms of one to watch, mine and Damo's boy, Moise Kean, back from his little jaunt out to PSG. He's 21 now. I think he's matured in France with Mbappe and Neymar. I'm sure he's been a good boy over there, and I think he could have a second chance at life in the Premier League, and I think we should be keeping our eyes on him. Successful season for Everton. They need to actually challenge for the top six. Stop talking about it. Stop getting hyped up, and just actually give it a good crack. And like Jesse said, get some backbone, Everton, because that's really just what they've lacked. They've got the players still. They've got a manager with good pedigree now. Now's the time to do it. It's a now or never season for Everton.
And for fuck's sake, get rid of Angry Birds and grow up.
But never get rid of Kazoo. I predicted they'll finish ninth.
Jesse's on that 9% beer now, clearly.
I think they're going to finish ninth. So call that what you will. Is that an improvement on 10th? It's progress. But is it what Everton fans would necessarily want or expect? Don't think so. But that's Everton.
Colby, question for you before we move on. Damari Gray's got plenty in common with a player that a lot of our listeners will remember, Bruce Kamau from the A-League.
Oh, yeah. He is the Premier League Bruce Kamau, 100%.
And we've seen Bruce Kamau has turned a bit of a corner in the last 12 months, though. Are you predicting that Damari Gray could turn the corner, or are you saying that he's going to be trash? Because
I'm calling it Damari Gray for Socceroos World Cup. Sign him up.
Expected Gray.
No, Tommy, I don't think he's going to turn the corner in the same way that Kamau did. I don't even think he's going to have that little mid-season resurgence of good form that might just get him the dream move to the Middle East that he's always fantasized about.
Or China.
Interestingly enough, I do note that I think he only played 10 games in the Bundesliga for Leverkusen, so that doesn't really sort of fill you with a lot of confidence. I guess he's English and probably counts as homegrown, so it's probably
which is a shame because at Leicester, when he was coming up and breaking into the first team at Leicester, he was very highly rated, and the fans and the club rated him very highly. He did pick up a few little injuries here and there, but he just never really made the grade, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, indeed. But look, we're going to have to keep moving, though. Next up, Colby, you hold on to the mic. At this time, you're previewing Leeds United, so take it away.
I'm a little bit higher on Leeds than I was on Everton. I got shown up last season. I previewed them last season, and I'm willing to say that I was wrong about Leeds, and I think a lot of people were, even their own fans. Ninth in their first season back in the Prem since 2004, I think. So that 16-year absence, was rewarded with a ninth place finished. I think people weren't really expecting them to do that well. They were expecting them to stay up just like us. They exceeded expectations and definitely surprised a few. Bamford showed that he was Premier League quality after all, and Bielsa had the whole team playing more than the sum of their parts. So this season, they haven't really changed much, which I think is the sign of a good, solid team. Bielsa likes what he's got. He's locked in Jack Harrison. He's taken that option to make that loan from Man City permanent. He played almost every game last season, 8 goals, 8 assists, pretty solid. He's just getting those solid returns out of a lot of his players. And they've brought in Junior Firpo, this 24-year-old fullback from Barca. Must admit, don't know a lot about this guy. He's got like 40 appearances for Barca over the last 2 seasons, so he's played a bit. But I must admit, not too familiar with him. But he looks like a replacement for Alioski, one of the sort of stalwarts of the club in recent times, who's left. And apparently, Leeds, made offers to try and get Alioski to stay, but weren't able to get the deal over the line. He played 177 games and scored 22 goals as a nominal fullback. So, that's pretty good, but we know he played pretty high. And they've also said goodbye to another stalwart, Pablo Hernandez, who's rejoined Castellon in the Spanish third division, where he played his youth career. So he's had a bit of a return there, a bit of a homecoming. Fans should be excited about retaining most of their squad. They've kept in the likes of DJ Calvin and Rafinha, and they've retained Bielsa as well. So I mean, he's locked in. He's not going anywhere. So I think they should be very happy about that. One of the best managers in world football staying around for another season of Premier League football. But they should be nervous about that second season syndrome. Are they going to be second season Wolves or second season Sheffield? That's the big question mark. I'm backing Bielsa to do it. I think they're going to finish a little bit higher even than last season. I'm tipping them to finish 7th. There's a bit of fat in the middle of the Premier League this season, so I think that Leeds can take advantage of that and rise above that. So that's Leeds.
Wow,
very good.
Colby, quick question. Does Rafinha go to Liverpool this window or next window, and what price for?
I'd like to see him go to Liverpool this window, ASAP. I think 20 million's fair.
Isn't that what they paid for him?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Exactly. You can't complain.
Rafinha's like time at each club is what, like 12 months per club anyway. So he's pretty much he's due a move.
He has been given the number 10 in the new shuffle around of kits, so that's kind of an incentive to stay, I guess.
Well, to be fair, Alioski used to wear 10 for them, so
does that mean Rafinha is going to right back then, or
yeah, anything could happen? Because the thing is, like, teams have had a season to see Bielsa's Leeds in the Premier League now, and Bielsa's going to need to adapt, and he is one of the more tactically flexible managers out there. So back him to do that. But yeah, that's going to be the real challenge for them this year, whether they can sort of keep doing things the way that they were doing that sort of full on, heavy metal football Bielsa style. Yeah. So that's going to be the really interesting thing to watch.
Their defense is going to be, it's going to be fascinating to see if they can keep their defense fit, because that was their big issue. I think it was Llorente actually had an issue in one of the preseason games again, after being injured for a big part of last season as well. So keep an eye on that, I think, as well, if you're watching Leeds this year, because I think that the defence was the problem. They lost Mr. Cott quite early last year and went a bit flaccid after that. But anyway, back to you, Copy.
I think one big thing for Leeds is that'll carry them through is a full Elland Road. Leeds fans get up and going, and that stadium rocks when it's loud. Leeds fans like to think they're the best fans in England, so they didn't get to go to many games or any games last year because of COVID. So it'll be awesome to see Elland Road full again. It's a great Premier League ground.
can't wait for like a Manchester United versus Leeds game or something like that, because it's going to be absolutely rocking, right?
Huge.
All right. Good note to finish on before we move on to Leicester City, which I'm doing. So Leicester City, everyone knows what happened last year. They looked so good for most of the season. Had 242 days in the top four before they then fell out of the top four on the last week, which meant that they finished fifth, which was really, really disappointing, because it was pretty much the second year in a row where they had been top four all season and then basically just dropped out right at the last minute. So that's really disappointing for Leicester fans that they're not playing Champions League this season, but they have strengthened their squad this season with Patson Daka, Boubakary Samare from Lille, and also Ryan Bertrand has come in from Southampton, which is a bit of a surprise that he left on a free, but it's a really good value pickup, I think, for Leicester, bringing in a little bit of experience, also a little bit of depth as well, at fullback as well. So they've done really good business in the transfer window, and also done it really early. I think Samari, I think he arrived about a month ago, and Daka's been there for a few weeks as well, too. So in terms of outs, they've only lost Christian Fuchs and also Captain Wes Morgan. He's retired, sadly. So that's maybe a bit of a change there in terms of sort of the dressing room, but not a huge out in terms of sort of the match day first 11, which is a positive. In terms of the they do also have Harvey Barnes returning from that massive injury from last season, which ruled him out for, I think, at least about half of the season. I can't remember exactly how long he's been out for, but he's a huge return for them, because basically while he was out, it really did sort of strip Leicester away the ability to get in behind opposition defenses in a way that they haven't really been able to do since sort of Vardy has really lost that electric pace that he used to have. I think Leicester fans will be nervous about possibly an end-of-season collapse. Yes, that everyone knows about that. But I think they'll also be a little bit concerned about Iheanacho and whether or not he can continue his good form from last season or not. And whether or not that means that they'll be reliant upon Vardy for goals still. Everyone knows Vardy's not getting any younger, and I think we said this time last year as well. But I guess they'll be looking to Iheanacho and also Daka as well for goals. And look, it's a good problem that they have now, that they've got three really strong strikers. So
Tommy,
it's good signs for them.
On things to be nervous about, did you hear that Fofana broke his leg and dislocated his ankle?
Ooh,
So,
bad injury, that one.
I did catch that one, but thank you for reminding me, because it's not in my notes. So it's a sad injury for a young player to have, because he was really good last year. He did not look out of place at all, and I think he started the season, he was 19. So really disappointing for him, and it's probably going to mean that they're going to need to bring in another centre back, because I think really at the moment it means they've only got two. I think they've. I can't remember the name of the Turkish guy. Soyuncu, thank you.
And Evans,
they've got him.
But Evans has had his own injuries, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a bit grim, I guess, for Leicester at the moment. But I guess they don't need a player that's going to play 40 games a season. They need probably an experienced centre back who can come in and, I don't know, a player like Gary Cahill.
Gary Cahill's available.
Gary Cahill
on and off the pitch.
Gary Cahill is not a terrible option, especially given that you just said that was
on the pitch.
I just mentioned that Wes Morgan has just retired, so look, having a senior member around the pitch is not necessarily a bad thing as well. The other thing that will make them a little bit nervous, I think, is that the African Cup
got a senior member off the pitch too.
The African Cup of Nations, I think, has returned back to January. So there's a very good chance they're going to lose Wilfred Ndini and also Samare back to that. So losing for about a month.
Yeah.
He and Nacho as well. Fortunately, Daka, I don't think he's. I think he's a Zambian international, so I don't think he's going to be at AFCON, which is good. But it does take out a real bunch of key players for Leicester. And if you do have Vardy out injured, or if you do have one of those other midfielders out injured, then it creates a real problem for them. One to watch for me, though, has got to be Harvey Barnes. I mean, I think he was my boy last year or the year before, and he's got electric pace, and it'd be interesting to see if he's still got that after that big injury. But if he does still have that electric pace, it's going to be really great to see him get amongst the goals and the assists again, because he's a really exciting player for me.
I find quite confusing with some of the signings in the Premier League sometimes, where you have players like Under come across from Roma, where he's like one of the key players for that team, and then he goes and plays. He gets signed for Leicester, and I don't think Rodgers used him. I don't think Rodgers used him at all last year.
He was only on loan, you're right, but he just seemed to be really underrated by Rodgers. So
underdone. But I think using that as a precedent, you have to ask the question sometimes of these managers when they bring these guys in, because obviously, like, transfers keep the fans happy, but at the same time, it's like, what's the purpose of that signing? Like, I'm hoping with someone like Daka, there's actually a bit more purpose to it than just bringing in the name from on the back of the Euros and that sort of thing. Because it's like, you need to actually have some purpose to these players. Because Under, for me, was like, I was really disappointed about that. Like, I think he's a pretty good player, but he just didn't seem to get a shot.
Jesse, did you get burnt by him in fantasy last season?
Sounds like it.
Yeah. He's got a real chip on his shoulder about Under.
Did anyone pick him up in the draft? I don't think he did. I think he sat in the draft as a free agent all year.
I'm pretty sure Biggers had him.
He was underutilized.
Of course he did. Of course he did.
All right. In terms of a successful season, though, I think top four is very achievable, but all of the top four teams have all really strengthened, and Liverpool have also got Van Dijk back as well. So it's a far different proposition, I think, this year for Leicester to break into the top four. So I actually think last year was, if they were going to make top four, last year was it. But I also think that anything lower than 6 is a bust. So I'm actually predicting they're going to finish 5th again. In terms of the kit, though, this year their kit a bit meh. It's blue and blight. It's blue, and instead of having sort of gold trim or something like that, for what we've seen over the last couple of years, it's got white trim. So it seems a bit flat. Don't really rate it.
Blue camo number, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit meh. Their away shirt is also teal with almost a bit of like a tartan pattern in there. It's a bit strange, hard to explain, but
Jesse's favorite toothpaste.
Yeah. not great kits, but not horrible either. Just a bit sort of middle of the road for me. Probably about a 5.5 out of 10. So bit flat for me. Old Leicester this year. Not obviously a few things to be excited about, but obviously a few things that they should be worried about too. So next up, though, is mentioned Van Dijk just earlier, though, and how Liverpool are going to be coming back stronger. And I'm sure Jesse's going to tell us all about how good Liverpool are going to be this season. Is that right?
Yeah, not with a huge amount of confidence, but with more out of hope. As you would have seen, like last season, I ambitiously thought Liverpool might finish top again, and how did that go? A little bit more realistic this year. I think City will still be too hard to catch, but my feeling with this year is I think we had a few years of a lot of luck with injuries, and we didn't seem to have too many. Like we had a few players like Matip and stuff that would always get injured, but last year it all happened at once. And I mean, most clubs have this at some stage where they have a sort of a calamitous year, and it was our turn last year. In saying that, we still got absolutely spanked by Aston Villa with players like Van Dijk and that on the pitch. So I'm not saying that the injuries were the whole reason, but I think what I'm just curious about is there are players there that need to be part of a system, and you need all the pieces of that system for them to work. And Thiago is one that comes to mind for me. Jota came in and just in a chaotic sort of year, he shone with scoring quite a few goals. I think he scored 9 goals, 19 appearances. That's just in the Premier League. And, you know, he just came in and he had a knee injury or a leg injury in the middle of it all, and then just picked up where he left off. So he was really impressive. So I think there are players like that will refresh the front line a little bit, and they've lost Wijnaldum. It remains to be seen if they're going to sign anyone else in the midfield. But at the moment, they've still got a pretty decent midfield there with Fabinho re-signing, Thiago Keita coming back like a new signing for the third season in a row. So yeah, I think the squad itself, I'm excited about Konate because he's a giant. I'm not sure how much you boys have seen of him, but he's an absolute unit. And I'm actually pretty excited about that because we've never been the tallest team. I mean, Van Dijk aside, we have never really been that big aerially. So imagine those two next to each other. It just means that we might actually officially be the Burnley at the top of the table. I think for me, some of the people that have gone out, Harry Wilson's gone to Fulham. You've got Grujic has gone to Porto. Grujic has been in our squad for years and years. It just hasn't gone away, but he's finally left. Kabak was here for about 4 months. I think you mentioned him earlier, Colby, but he's gone straight out. He didn't make the cut.
So, yeah.
But Harvey Elliott, who absolutely ripped it up for Blackburn in the Championship last year, has come back, and he's now officially transferred over from being an under-23 player to a first-team player. And I'm really excited about this kid because even though he's still very, I think he's 17, off the top of my head, 17 or 18. He's still very young, but he can play on the right, cut in on his onto his left foot, and he looks like a cracking player. So one to watch. I don't know how much game time he's going to get initially, but as the season goes on, I think he'll get more. And one of the things that you guys mentioned earlier about the Africa Cup of Nations, it's going to really affect the Liverpool squad a lot as well, with some really key players going in January. So players like Elliott and Jota are going to be absolutely critical during that time. What should we be excited about? What we should be excited about having a defence that finally comes back. We'll actually have some players back there that we can pick, and that will hopefully make the whole team tick a little bit better. For me, Harvey Elliott was one of those things you should be excited about as well. What should we be nervous about? Some of those players are coming back from serious injuries. It's not expected to click overnight, and it might be something that as a fan, I have to be a bit patient about. We did have frailties last season, as I mentioned, which weren't just because those players were out. We had them before they went out, and I think it was a lot of fatigue and mental fatigue from the last few years. So can they be refreshed in the off season to actually come back and fight again? So for me, successful seasons, top 4, and to try and go deep into the Champions League, and a trophy would be fantastic. Predicted finish is 2nd. The kits, the home kit is absolutely ruined by having a peach color as the trim. One of the great crimes of the modern century. The away kit, which Colby is modeling for us, is on the other hand classy and really crisp, and I really like it. So unfortunately,
looks good with a denim jacket
and
well.
bowling shoes.
Yeah, pairs well with a denim jacket, listeners.
Yeah. So
Jesse, Colby, what's your thoughts on the piss-coloured McDonald's third kit?
Oh man,
Third kit doesn't exist.
Strategically left out of the pod notes, I might add.
What third kit?
I won't have a bar. I will not have a bar of that third kit. Doesn't exist.
It kind of looks like an F1 flag that they wave when there's an accident or something, with the checkered pattern on the sleeves.
Accident is a good analogy.
Wait, which third kit are you referring to here? What color?
It's the yellow one.
Oh fuck, Jesus. Yeah, there's one that was floated in front of me the other day, and I was like, that can't be the third kit, and unfortunately, it sounds like it is. So thanks, guys. Thanks for ruining my preview. But as I said, that's pretty exciting for some of the players coming back for Liverpool. So that's what I'll say on them.
Just a couple of points from me. First one is the home kit just reminds me of the current Qantas in-flight hosty get up with the pink, red, and I think it's black, and pink and red should never be paired together. The other thing I had was who is going to cause the most trouble on social media this year? Is it going to be Trent or is it going to be Harvey Elliott?
Who's the most likely to slide in some DMs? It's going to be
Grealish and Foden, isn't it?
Who's going to be saving? Who's going to be upset about people saving chat?
Yeah, Elliot. There's been a few interesting Snapchat and Instagram conversations that have been shared from those boys. So let's hope they just put a lid on it.
Elliot has big dickhead vibes, doesn't he?
Elliot slowly trimmed back the man bun, so that's an improvement. But we'll see how he goes. He's still got a bit of a interesting mop there. So
baby steps.
baby steps.
All right. Let's move on, shall we? Next up is Andy with Manchester City. Pretty much the champions in waiting, really. Is that true, Andy?
Look, as the sound of the Imperial March opens like the Premier League and they walk out. Look, this to be fair is probably like the shortest and the easiest of the previous. So thanks, boys, for letting me do this one because, in short, having cantered to the Premier League and picked up the EFL Cup last year. Gone out in the FA Cup semis and lost Champions League final, I would expect nothing less than continued domestic dominance this year. Again, in the Premier League, that, as we talked about already, that squad is so strong and they continue to strengthen it. On the transfer side, outs, it's really more of a window for outs rather than entries so far because it's really just Aguero and Eric Garcia that have gone off to Barcelona. Unfortunately, Barcelona haven't repaid the favour and sent Messi in the other direction. But that's okay because the one they do have so far is Jack Grealish. Again, how you get another talented guy who was one of the top performers for assists last season, was the most fouled Premier player in the league last season, into this side, like it continues to get stronger. They've got in all likelihood, probably Harry Kane coming in, which, as we said, that's if you add him to that team as well, after De Bruyne, I mean, I think he was probably second in the league for assists and obviously the Premier League top scorer. So that attack is just phenomenal. What City fans should certainly be excited about, I think, is just to see. What I think City fans should be excited about is basically to see what Pep's going to do with this team because I don't know, like how much more enjoyable could football be to watch? Like how much better can that team play? I don't know. I don't know. Like maybe there's a ceiling, but we'll see.
I guess the one thing that could sort of not necessarily ramp up the difficulty, but make it a little bit tricky for Pep is if it does sound as though Bilva wants to leave, and if you've got an unhappy Bilva around the squad, or
so what?
Well, that's my big question.
Who cares?
Like Pep's managed to keep this side like all happy for so long, and it just seems like this is unheard of in any other successful team. Eventually, the guys who are the rotation players start to get a bit like antsy and start to want to play more minutes. Like, they've won their trophies now and they just want to be stars. And after a few really successful seasons, you hear really top managers say that, after the third or the fourth or fifth season at a club, like, players just stop listening to you as much. And after you've won everything, and City are facing pretty much all of those situations other than the Champions League. Like maybe it's the carrot of the Champions League keeping people interested, but I just think
that's my take on it, Coles. I
Yeah,
agree. And Pep actually said this about why they brought Grealish in. He goes, look, we've sold a lot of young players, so we've got money to do it, and you need to keep bringing players in. Not a full squad, but you need to add players every season to keep everyone else on their toes. Which again, it's an old adage, and like it's there for a reason. But I agree. I think it's the Champions League it remains the thing that. To bring one to the club is the thing for the players. If you've won everything else, like it's a little bit bigger for them than just winning the Champions League for another club that's already won it.
Grealish is a fascinating signing, Andy, though, because he's a mercurial kind of player, and that team has got a lot of players like a Bilva who are just like system players who are just so good at linking up and linking up and linking up, and Grealish is just like. I think we saw flashes of it when Southgate, put him on the pitch, which wasn't for very long. But when he was on the pitch, he was so effective in those small spells that he's on there. And he's one of those players that you could have a team of like 10 blokes just parking the bus and he'll somehow find a way to get through. So that's the scary thing for me as a person who supports a team that's, I guess, a direct rival of City, but soon to be left in the dust. Is basically because that is a team that already finds a way to unpick the lock, and now you've got one of the best lock unpickers in the Premier League joining them. So that's scary.
I'd agree because I'd say that he's a unpicker on a man-to-man level, whereas the rest of the puzzle obviously, pass and move and stuff. Whereas what?
Isn't an unpicker is a lock picker like someone who opens a lock, but an unpicker is someone who would lock the door again, right?
Locksmith.
What's man level? What does that mean?
Once he's in there, he's got to get in the room first.
I mean, look, I guess you're right. Technically, he's not an unpicker. In fact, I don't know.
Mate,
I don't have to think an unpicker is a position. I don't think anyone can do that.
He's the key, Colby. He's the key.
Because the lock's really the lock itself is actually the unpicker. But
he's the credit card that opens the door. Okay,
Look, I was going to say the only thing I think fans should be nervous about, other than if someone actually does lock the team up again, is
Burnley are a team full of unpickers. They're just
sitting a team full of doors. They're not the locks or the keys. They're the
doors. You're a team full of knobs. Look, I think the only thing that they need to be nervous about is if they don't manage to bring Kane in, is whether they can continue to play with this system and spread goals across the park. Gundogan was the top scorer for the team last year with 8. I don't know if they can do that for another season. The other weakness is at left back, where I've already mentioned Benjamin Mendy, who I don't know where his head is, but it's every time he plays, there's a reason why Pep doesn't trust him. And Zinchenko, while he's improved, is just not a natural in that position. And that's the only real Achilles heel, I think, in that team. The kit is shit. I hate everything Puma does, and this is no exception. The home kit
Puma were good, and now they're trash again.
I really like the away kit. The
white.
Yeah, I like bad. I like the away.
The coloured.
I don't love it. I really hate the third kit, which
it looks like a T-shirt that you'd buy from Kmart with watermarks all over it of the crest.
Yeah, it looks like a little kid's T-shirt. It's so shit. Also shit, the mascots, Moonbeam and Moonchester. They haven't improved at all. In fact, that's the other weakness in this team.
The mascot.
I hope they've got a serious allergy and they come up against Buzzette, and that will be the end of
it. when your team's so successful that Zinchenko's the weakest player and you need to get rid of your mascot. Huge problems for City this year.
No, that's
huge problem. Huge problems for the league.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to add before we move on?
No, I think that's enough for City.
Fair enough. All right.
Unless we can patch in a master locksmith, or that's a gilded profession. I think I don't even know where we'd find one, but I think that if anyone was to become a locksmith, you have to wait for another one to die.
I suspect that we need to close the door on that one.
Question for the listeners.
Yeah. So we're going to move on now to the other side of Manchester, who still, I guess, have a little bit of growth left in them yet, which Damo's going to walk us through how the red side of Manchester is going to go this season. Take it away.
They're starting to get quite chirpy over there, Damo, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Obviously finished second last year, above probably expectations from a lot of people. Outperforming themselves really, but still didn't win a trophy, which makes now Manchester United in their longest trophy drought in 31 years. So 4 years is the longest they've gone since Alex Ferguson won his first trophy. Obviously, their longest drought before that was from 1985 to 1990. So, but the funny thing is that Man United fans have really changed their tune of late. 4 years without a trophy previously would be the worst thing imaginable, but the hot word for them is progress. And you hear them all talk about, but we're making progress. And I think that's really going to come to a head this season. And the writing's on the wall for Ollie if he fails to win any trophies this year. I think that they can't have another year without a trophy. It's really just probably not acceptable for them as a club, you'd imagine. Particularly with the two big ins, obviously, Sancho and Varane. They've been able to put together now a squad which the fans can be excited about, and that they've assembled a squad that can challenge for a league title, for trophies. They're a good enough team, which they haven't been for seasons in the past, 4, 5, 6 years. But now it's all on Ollie to get it right. And like I said, he's got to win a trophy, and I kind of touched on it earlier about Jadon Sancho, and now especially that Rashford's out injured and we know Greenwood's injured. There's a lot of pressure on him, particularly at the start of the year, and I think if I was a United fan, I'd be nervous about how he starts the season. He's still only a really young guy. Yeah, he proved himself at a high level in the Bundesliga, but he's never played in the Premier League, and we've seen a lot of players come to the Premier League and have failed to fire. So there's a lot of pressure and a lot of expectation on him, and if he's going to be thrust right into it now with those injuries, he's really the main man and the main option. So if he doesn't score goals and isn't playing well to start the season, the pressure on him is going to build really, really quickly, and the pressure on United's going to build really quickly as well. So obviously the one to watch is Sancho. He's the low-hanging fruit. Before Grealish went to City, I think he was the record British transfer fee, which for a British player rather. So which could be broken again by Kane in a matter of weeks, but who knows? So it's easy to say he's the one to watch. Obviously, there'll be a keen eye on him. But for me, an outsider is Amad Diallo. He's a young guy at Man United. I think he's only 19. And look, it's a tough ask to crack the starting 11 or even come off the bench for United in that front three when all their players are fit. So if he gets a game, I think he'll play well. He was brilliant at the Olympics. I don't know if you saw any of his highlights. He didn't score any goals or get any assists for the Ivory Coast, but he was like startling player. Like his highlight reel was unbelievable. So to be fair, I didn't watch any full games of Ivory Coast, so I can't really comment.
Did you see his highlights?
I saw his highlight reel, that's for sure.
Skills and tricks.
For a successful season, United have to win a trophy. They have to win a trophy, and they have to ensure they're in the Champions League again next year. That's a minimum for them, and a minimum for Ollie at the helm. So Ollie at the wheel, rather. I think they'll be looking to move him on if it looks likely that they've fallen out of cup runs and fallen out of the Champions League, and if they're not within touch of the league title and they're struggling for top four, we could see him moved on before the end of the year.
Weird though, because they just gave him a new contract. So
yeah. But then I feel like United are going to finish second. I feel like, and I feel like, and I think Andy touched on it earlier, that Varane signing is really the kind of glue that'll make Harry Maguire prove the kind of player that he is and prove the price tag they paid for him a couple of years ago. There's been a lot of criticism about him, but last season Harry Maguire was unbelievable. He was probably, if not England's best, if not the tournament's best, England's best player at the Euros. He was a monster at the back there. And I feel like he's going to bring the same talismanic approach to Man United this year. And Varane will be able to clean up and kind of do the dirty work for Maguire, for lack of a better term. So that I think will be a key partnership for United. I think they'll be brilliant defensively, and that'll carry them through to second place in the league. So
what will they do about the Trojan horse, though, that is Fred, who just is like a grenade that,
he's just not going to play.
You throw that guy on the pitch and he just finds a way to fuck it all up, doesn't he?
Yep. As for the kits, which I don't think we'll see Fred in the kit very often, but look, I absolutely love Man United's home and away kit this year. I think the only down is it's a horrible sponsor, Team Viewer. It's got a shit logo. It doesn't really work with it's off center. It doesn't really work. But the actual kit from Adidas the home kit, it's basic. You know, you put another sponsor on there and it's an iconic jersey in the Premier League. And the away kit plays off and kind of is a homage to one of the most iconic kits in Premier League history, that snowflake kit from the early 90s. So both exciting jerseys. Man United fans will be very excited about that. As for their mascot, Fred the Red, I mean, he's not a B, so he already gets downgraded for that. And he's just boring. Like, what even is he? He's not.
He's about as useful as the other Fred.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Bench them both.
Give him a B-.
Isn't he like a devil? Is that what he is?
I think he's supposed to be one, but he just looks like a children's
Fred
cartoon.
Fred Devil. There we go.
God.
So yeah, that's Man United for me. So there's a lot of pressure on them, in short.
Fair enough. Thank you, Damo. All right, next up is Newcastle United, and I've got them. Newcastle United, look, not much to report back on in terms of transfers. They've signed 3 young players, and that's it. And none of them are likely to play at all this season in the Premier League. So, yeah. Strangely enough, though,
Joe Willock, tell me.
No, he was on loan last year, and there's no way after his performances last year, I think Arsenal are going to let him go out on loan again. So
keep an eye on Romano, mate, because I think he might be on the way.
Ooh,
here we go.
There we go.
Literally,
Can we get some
here we go.
watch?
But but look, Newcastle really, it's not much has changed in 12 months. I mean, Mike Ashley's still trying to sell the club, can't find a buyer, and it's just the sort of the issue that's hanging over that club at the moment. Obviously, all the fans can't wait for Mike Ashley to leave, and he's just pretty much unwilling to put any more money into the club until he can get out of there. But look, Newcastle did actually have a pretty strong finish to the end of last season. They finished 12th in the end, which blew me away when I was doing research for this. They had 5 wins, 5 draws, and only 3 losses in their final 13 games. So they came home with an absolutely soaking wet sail.
Considering at about January, when I was talking about if Sheffield United could stay up, I was talking about the only team they've got chance of catching is Newcastle. For them to finish 12th was unbelievable.
I've said for the last 2 years that they're going to get relegated, and they haven't done it. So I think I'm not going to say that again this year. I'm actually saying that they're going to finish 14th this year.
Tommy, was that really like a great effort by Newcastle, or did they do a bit of a Stephen Bradbury the end of last season when everyone else was on the beach and just thought, fuck it?
A little bit, but I mean, they did get some good results against some decent teams too. So I don't think it's all just on other teams. I think Newcastle did sort of stand up, and it wasn't just the final 5 games; it was the final 13 games. So yeah, look, credit where credit's due, and Steve Bruce is. I begrudgingly say this, but I think he's done a pretty decent job since he's been there. I think Newcastle fans will be excited about taking that form from last season into this coming season. Callum Wilson did score a decent amount of goals considering how many games he actually played. But I guess that's the fear, is that Callum Wilson's next injury is never far around the corner. And it's the same for St. Maximum as well. Like, I mean, everyone says how great he is to watch, but both players are just guaranteed to be injured within the next 5 games. So scary, I guess, from a Newcastle perspective. For them, a successful season really is just not getting relegated. And like I said, I think they're going to finish 14th, which would be a really strong finish, I think, or a really strong performance from them. In terms of the kit, there's one thing I want to say about that kit, because I think everyone knows what to expect from Newcastle. Black and white stripes, gambling sponsor, yuck. They're also they've got Castore, the Wolves kit maker, and I can't remember who else is making Castore. Who else is doing a Castore kit this year? There's one other
thing.
Woo
doing Castore, Tommy? Oh no, that's another like an Italian brand or something. Yeah.
No, I think Kappa is still doing this. But look, one thing I do want to mention about Newcastle's kit is that they have a 4 on the front of their jersey, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. So, if you haven't seen it yet, I'm sorry, I've just ruined Newcastle's kit for you.
4 for 14th. They're going to finish 14th.
The away kit also looks like one of those, those books where you stare at it for so long and you see a picture in it.
A magic eye.
Yeah, that's what the away kit looks like.
Hang on, I'm googling it right now.
We'll edit this out. Don't worry, listeners.
It's actually not. I actually don't mind it. It does remind me. There's another kit that it kind of reminds me of, or maybe it reminds me a little bit of the Man United away kit.
I just saw the 4. Fucking Tommy, come on.
Sorry, ruined. All right, next up is Norwich, and Andy is going to be reviewing Norwich's chances for this coming season. Take it away, Andy.
Thanks, boys. Norwich back in the Premier League, second time in 3 seasons. Frankly, I'm excited about it. I don't know how long it's going to last, but to begin with,
they can fuck off.
I hope they don't fuck off. To start on the transfers, there is a well-documented Emil Bundia-sized hole in the squad, and he was the player that obviously propelled them up the championship last season. They've also lost a squad player in Mario Vrancic, who's off to Stoke City, and Oliver Skipp's going back to Tottenham after his loan. But Fark has brought in some sort of like-for-like replacements. One of who I'll tell you why in a minute is I'm very excited about. But Ben Gibson's come in. His loan's now been made permanent. Dimitris Giannoulis, the Greek speedster down the left, who's got the delightful nickname of Mr. No Breaks. That's what they call him at Norwich.
I don't know if that's a good thing.
He's the new Ryan Fredericks, basically.
Yeah, apparently he's just a pacey bloke that cannot put a ball in to save his life. But he's very exciting. And they've also got to fill the Bundia-sized hole, a guy called Milot Raskia, who was playing in Germany for Bremen when they were relegated, but was like the shining light in that team. Billy Gilmore's loan's also back on loan again. And interesting, and the guy that will probably sit in the midfield as well is a guy called Pierre-Lise Melu, who's come over from Nice.
Mayo.
Now, I was trying to look this guy up because I just wanted to find something on him. And there was one stat that came up twice. And this is so confusing. I've never heard this before. They say that his pass completion percentage last year of 85% was the same as his regular, his under pressure pass completion at 85% was the same as his unpressured pass completion at 85%. So that means either he's really good at passing under pressure or he could just improve passing generally. I'm not sure.
Wow.
But look, this Norwich team, I think they'll be exciting. It came up twice. I'm like, I've never heard that before. And I don't know what it means. Look, they were the best in the championship last year. The problem is it's basically the same squad that they had in the championship last year, minus their best player, and it's almost the same squad that got flogged in the Premier League for an entire season 2 years back. So fans should be excited about just being there for the ride again, and kind of hopeful and maybe to see if Daniel Farke's learned some of the lessons from the first season. But they were a good team to watch, particularly in the first half of the year. What fans should be nervous about in particular is a tough start to the season because they've got Liverpool, City, Arsenal, and Leicester first up. So they really do face the prospect of being at the bottom of the table, before they can really get off the mark at all.
They've really been screwed up here. Last time Norwich were in the Premier League, they were amazing until they beat City, and then once they beat City, they were just literally they were dog shit after that. Yeah. So now this time around, they've only got 2 games that they're going to be good in this time around.
Yeah, to be fair to Norwich, though, boys, they had a real injury crisis as well. Yes. Like their whole back line got knocked out last season, and that really just derailed them, I think.
Yeah, and that was why Gibson in particular was a really important guy to make permanent. Ones to watch. We've talked about Rashford already, and we know he's a good dribbler, and he's here to take on. He should get a lot of the ball, and the way they play and the way they played with Bundy should mean that he's on the ball a lot. And they'll have him and Max Aarons on the right hand side, who love to sort of overlap and overload on down the wing. So that'll be exciting. There's also a guy that you might not have heard of as well called Barney Mumba, who they picked up from Sunderland. And he'll either sub in for Aaron's on the right or play on the left when Mr. No Breaks inevitably has the brakes put on. But he's a young and exciting player that I think you will want to watch out for. Success for Norwich, I think, is survival. My prediction is that they're going to do it. I think they survive only just. I think they've got, again, enough players that have been in the Premier League and have done this once before, and with a bit more wisdom second time around, I think we'll see Daniel and the boys for another season. Kit, as we've discussed already, short sleeve version is okay. They haven't got a lot to work with because their colours are horrible, but the long sleeve one with that weird green loop thing down the sleeve is disgusting. Their mascot, though, Captain Canary. This guy's sick. They had the same old mascot that I think they probably didn't update his uniform, or I don't know what you call it, but his costume since the club started. And there's a great photo of him somewhere with it's got holes in it, and it was this disgusting yellow old kit, and you really felt for whoever had to put it on. But they've got it. He's got a new kit. He's been updated. He's not in blackface. So yeah, I'm all about Captain Canary this season.
Wow.
Very good. All right. Next up, Jesse with Southampton. Take it away, Jesse.
Well, this is where shit gets real, basically, because Southampton. I think one of my first appearances on this pod a couple of years ago was saying that Southampton was circling the drain, and they were going to go down.
Waiting for someone to say circling the drain.
Yeah. If you've got that on your more than a game preview bingo card, then that's it, listeners.
There it
That
is.
was low-hanging
There it is.
fruit.
Yeah.
There it is.
I mean, they're not going to come home with a wet sail?
Oh, they'll get a tune
We'll
out
get
of it.
a tune out of this
Getting a
preview
tune out of it.
eventually.
They will get a tune out of it. I'll tell you someone who's not going to get a tune out of it, and that's Ralph Hasenhüttl. I've predicted him to get sacked before even Vieira. I think he's got
At least 1-9-0 loss this season as well.
Yeah.
I just Danny Ings saved that team on numerous occasions, and I actually was just going through their squad, which it makes for some pretty depressing reading. Like, that squad is pretty bang average. If you actually take Ings out of it, I just can't see them surviving. And you're talking about Norwich and these other teams. Like, I still think Norwich will go down, but I actually think that the bottom of the table where I predict the teams to finish. So I've got Southampton finishing in 18th, and just above them, Wolves and Crystal Palace and Burnley. So I think it's going to be an absolute shit fight down there near the end of the season. And you might have teams like Brentford. I mean, this is my prediction, so it probably won't come true, but you could have teams like Brighton and Brentford finish in 13th and 14th, not because they've been sensational, but just because Burnley, Crystal Palace, Wolves, and Southampton are all in the same area of the table. And it could go to the final day as to who goes down. And I think that will be Southampton, because I just don't think I don't think there is a team, apart from maybe Leicester with their form. I don't think there's a team that had a bigger nosedive last year than Southampton. I understand that they had injuries. They got really, they lost, I've forgotten his name at the back, the Great Dane. It'll come to mind. Vestergaard. They lost Vestergaard and a number of players. Bednarik decided to get red carded 3 times in a row. So they had a really tough period, and they got smashed by Man United. And then Leicester's obviously had their way with them a couple of times as well. So they've been spanked under Hasenhüttl's reign, and losing Ings.
In the second half of last season, mate, they won 4 games and had 2 draws in 19 games.
Considering that they started pretty well, their final stats were 1-12, 7 draws, lost 19. 48 goals scored, but 68 conceded, and they only had 9 clean sheets. And it's just if you look at their transfer business, they've sold Ings, all right? So Lamina, which, is a red card going out the door, has gone to Nice. Ryan Bertrand has gone to Leicester. I'm not really sure what to make of that. For free, yeah. Angus Gunn's gone to Norwich. And then you've got the ins. At the moment, I think it's Perro's. Perro has come over from Liga 1, so like he's someone to watch. But apart from that, Valentino Livramento from Chelsea. Yeah, he's come across as a right midfielder for 5.9 million.
George, you've been following Livamento's season for a couple of years.
Yeah. I tell you someone one for you, Colby, Dan Unlundolo, I think it is, from Lincoln City, one of your favorites.
Oh, Lincoln, the Imps, my boys.
He's come across as a 23-year-old striker, and then you've got, of course, the other end of the spectrum. Theo Walcott has come across from Everton. So it's very
good stat
very
about
average.
Theo Walcott, boys. He's taken the number 32 at Southampton this year, and he's 32 years old. So there you go.
Lovely.
I didn't realize how dire it was, Jesse. Like that. Yeah, wow.
They're cooked. Southampton are absolutely cooked this season.
I think they're cooked. I mean, they've got one player that should be one to watch is Nathan Teller. He's going to be playing up front, I imagine, with Shea Adams and Ings after Ings is gone. So he's a young talent who will be exciting to watch. I think he's pretty pacey, but he does have a bit of end product. He hasn't had too much of a look in with the fact that they used to play Ings and Shea Adams up front together. But you've had a couple of those young players to come across as well. But I mean, the things to be nervous about far outweigh the positives. I mean, what fans should be nervous about? Shane Long getting anywhere near that team ever again.
Hey, man.
Their drop-off in form last year was so alarming. Injuries to defence left them incredibly exposed, and it doesn't look like they've shored that up. And losing their manager early, which is what I predict is going to happen, could basically seal their fate super early in the season if they can't recover. So people forget that before Hasenhüttl, this team did have a bit of a Watford revolving door of managers, and they weren't actually that secure in the Premier League, and they haven't actually, like other teams, they haven't strengthened their squad. So I think they're gone, but we will see. But my idea of a successful season for them would be to survive.
And Jesse, with a squad like that, and with the blatant disregard that the ownership seemed to be showing to the squad this season, is Hasenhüttl almost better off to just like cook it early and go? Otherwise, he risks his reputation being absolutely torn to shreds by this just flaming turd of a team.
He to be honest, his reputation's already taken some massive dents to it from those losses. Like those are British. Well, I think they're British records to some degree that you don't want to have against your name. And unfortunately, he does already in his tenure. And we all know that he's done some good things at times, and he's made them play some exciting football. But one thing that everybody was saying in the preseason, whether you be a casual watcher or like you like to watch a lot of football, was that they played a high line, and they didn't have a squad that was good enough to play with a high line. So then they turn up against Spurs, and what was it, like game week 2 or 3, and they got absolutely torn to shreds by Son and Kane. Like absolutely torn to shreds, and anybody could have said that was going to happen, but Hasenhüttl still persisted with his methods. So I don't know how much longer he's going to last, or the team. So I think
Hasenhüttl's his real plan B is just do plan A better. Like he's got nothing else in his locker.
He's like an Ange Postecoglou, like a real ideological manager, and he just like gets these philosophies in there, and he's like, "Look, I don't care like who my team is, how shit they are. Like this is my idea, and this is what we're doing. I don't care if I've got the personnel to do it. This is what's happening."
Looks good in a tracksuit though, and I guess that's all that matters for the Alpine flop. Moving on to the kit, guys. The home is a 7.5 out of 10. The only reason why it got downgraded from an 8 or an 8.5. Because I actually quite like this kit, is the fact that it has skid marks. Now, skid marks seems to be a bit of a trend across the league. We didn't actually mention this at the beginning when we were talking about kits, but there are a number of kits in this league which have, for some reason, a car has just driven over them, and then that's the end of the kit design. And their home kit has
there's no Brisbane Roar jersey.
I'm triggered, boys.
The home kit has what looks like a couple of tire marks going straight down the
no, they're the things that make you go fast in Mario Kart, isn't it? It's just they're the
So do you know how the club explained what those like chevron looking things were? That they were an ode to the famous winds that used to blow at the Dell.
Oh, fuck
Oh,
off.
gee whiz.
Wow.
And everyone was just like, yeah, nah, that's just Hummel doing Hummel.
Give me strength. I mean, I actually quite like Hummels, and I actually think it's a pretty good kit. I only gave it a little bit of a pull down from the tire marks. The away kit is again another yellow kit. Fucking kill me. And then the third kit is actually pretty good. The only thing to knock the third kit about is the sports bet thing that is bigger than the crest.
Gambling logo.
It's just it's the biggest thing on the shirt.
And .io as well. Like I feel like I'm getting a virus from looking at that sponsor.
Yeah,
It's real like LimeWire vibes.
Yeah,
And,
it's like you're trying
it's a little,
to you're trying
little Bitcoin logo for me on there as well.
you talk about LimeWire vibes. You know, you're trying to download "It's Been a While" by Stained, and you get Jenny from the Block.
If only they could illegally stream some good results.
On that note, boys, I won't drag you any further. I just will say that the mascots are Sammy the Saint and Super Saint, Saint Bernard dogs. I can assume 7 out of 10, pretty decent. Just a bit weird and a bit creepy, so I won't give them any more than that. But that's Southampton for you, boys, and a positive review from me.
Well, look, listeners, we really hope you've managed to hang in this long. But if you have, next up is going to be Tottenham Hotspur with George. George, take it away.
Thanks, boys. So I'll make it short and sweet. We've sort of discussed the main thing to do with Spurs actually, which is the Harry Kane saga. So I think what happens there, and it's likely he's going to go, but that's going to have a major impact on where they finish, how they're going to play. So it's sort of difficult to preview Tottenham's season with Kane going or not gone, or because it changes the whole way they play, and it really affects everything in relation to where they finish and how they'll go. So on that note, basically the other thing that's new about Tottenham this season is the new manager Nuno. So obviously ex-Wolves manager did a really good job of getting Wolves up and then sort of maintaining their sort of top 10 finishes for Wolves, around that the last couple of seasons. The other new thing they got was a new director of football. So ex-Juventus director Fabio Paratici, and I read an article about him, boys, and the only sacred rule of the Paratici code is that there are no holidays or breaks. His phone is never off. At most, he's unavailable because he's with agents, players, or presidents. Until Spurs convinced Paratici to install WhatsApp, he had relied for 10 years on iMessage and phone calls. So there you go. So imagine how much good he can do with WhatsApp now, guys. So that's one to remember.
Well, Spurs really stepped into the 21st century there, yeah.
Yeah. I think something you might talk about it, George, but the Nuno's really stamped his his logo on this squad already, hasn't he?
Well, in terms of who's come in and out, I don't,
because we're all Portuguese.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what you're hinting at. So, Brian Gill, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but he's the Hill. So he's come in for over 20 million pounds, and Christian Romero's come in for 55 million euros as well. So he's the defender, and Hill is the winger. So Gill's a bit of a replacement for Lamella, who's gone out, Alderweireld as well, and also it looks like Sissoko's leaving. So so there's some changes there. In terms of other things, one to watch, obviously Romero. Andy talked him up earlier, coming in.
Wait till it flops now.
Could he have like a Diaz type impact for Tottenham? And help their aging backline. Obviously, Son's also signed a new deal for 4 years. So that I mean, I hope he knew about Harry Kane before he signed that. Otherwise, we could have another Kane scenario on us. But Son will have to lead the line, and you'd really hope if they do sell Harry Kane, they've got a proper set of replacements lined up, because
What do we think the chances are of Harry Kane leaving though, boys? It sounds like they're getting slimmer and slimmer by the day, especially with the Grealish deal done. Like it seems like he's backed into another season at Spurs. He's got seems like he's got the handcuffs on. He'll be back at training again soon, and I don't know personally. I don't see him leaving.
Exclusive. I don't know. I think he's going. I mean, you can't see how he again after the not turning up to training thing. Like, well, how does like you said, like how does he continue with that?
No, Andy, so I think he released like a
that was a misunderstanding.
He was on holiday, wasn't he? Quarantining.
Andy's put out some statement in the last day or so saying basically he's committed to the cause and he's back at training. He never skipped training.
This is why I hate Harry Kane. This is such bullshit. Yeah.
You're in or you're out. Like everyone knows. Like he's getting booed on day one of the season, whether or not he's playing or not.
He's just such a dork. He can't. He just he hasn't even got the gumption to not turn up and stick by. Like nerd. Thank God he's good at football.
What do you obviously Delhi last year didn't play because Mourinho is not much of a Delhi fan, but obviously him coming back into the team, we've gone from having baseball dad Delhi at the start of last year to basketball dad Delhi at the start of this year. Do you think he'll have a big impact? Because I reckon Nuno will use him pretty effectively.
Yeah,
Delhi's brother is who I'm interested in seeing.
He's
sandwich shop Delhi.
He's been playing. Yeah, he's been playing in all the preseason friendlies, and it looks like Nuno will use him. And I think Nuno's a good manager for Spurs, despite them wanting a bigger name and him probably being their seventh choice. Like the way he sort of plays, the way he kind of organises his team, and they like to hit on the counter, should actually work well for Spurs, especially if you're going to rely on Kane, Son, and Dele Alli. So just charging forward. So it might actually
and Doherty.
Doherty's
back.
Oh yeah,
you get a tune out of Doherty, I reckon.
Yeah. So I think it's actually a good manager for Spurs, notwithstanding. Yeah, as I said, they were looking for bigger fish. So yeah, last season they finished seventh. This season I think they'll probably be in and around 8th position. So I don't think they'll be pushing for a top 4. But obviously it's just a massive asterisk till what's happening with Kane. So their kit, their home kits are pretty stock standard white. Not too much to sing home about. But as we mentioned, the away kit is the Paddle Pop Galaxy, whatever you want to call it. So I think they've got to sort out obviously what's going on. There's 2 weeks to go before the season starts, so it's pretty interesting to see how Levy and Nuno are managing their squad with just this huge question mark.
It's a really interesting team to preview, because there's all these players, like everyone's focused on Kane, but there's these players that have come in, and I kind of touched on it before when we were talking about Leicester, where you don't really know what the purpose of the signing was because they didn't suit the manager. So you've got like Bergwijn there that he was never going to be a player under Mourinho that was going to be any use to Mourinho at all. But he's actually, when he left, what was the Dutch team that he left? Not
PSV or Feyenoord.
PSV, wasn't it? Yeah. He was an absolute gun when he came across to Tottenham. And so if he's in a system where the manager says, I want you and I want more on the other side to absolutely just bomb down there, and then behind you've got attacking fullbacks as well, the whole team looks different. And I just think that there are players there that we always see just cooked because they had a poor last season, but they were really, there was only 2 players in that team that Mourinho wanted to manage, and it was Son and Kane. And then the rest, and Eric Dyer, of course. So then you've just got these other players who just basically, you could just cross out that season in their career and be like, they just were terrible. But really, there's still players there that probably will be quite suited to Nuno up front.
Exactly. And I think, as I said, he's the type of manager that with those players and his sort of strategy, it might actually be a good match. But again, it remains to be seen. It remains to be seen whether the squad will actually listen to him, or whether they'll sort of see him as not a big enough name to respect. So, yeah,
well, the name's pretty big. It's pretty long. So we'll listen to him. So.
I was just hoping we'd get a Højbjerg out of Colby. That's all.
Well, fortunately, maybe we can get a Højbjerg out of Colby before he starts on Watford.
Rookie pronunciations, boys.
All right. Look, Colby, I do notice that you've got a nice red there going on in the background. So is that inspired by the Pozzos?
Inspired by Watford's away kit, boys.
You're doing this in reverse order.
My boys, Watford, are back in the Premier League a season after dropping down.
Are we a Watford pod again?
Yes.
We are a Watford pod.
We're also 100%. A Villa pod. We're also a Villa pod.
Yeah, 100%. We're a Watford/Villa pod, depending on the week, depending on what's happening. But I mean, I couldn't be happier for my boys. Winning automatic promotion in the Championship. They're back. They've made a lot of signings though, which doesn't always bode well for promoted teams. I'll call out a few key ones. Imran Louza from Nantes. In Ligue 1. He's a 22-year-old who signed a 5-year deal. Looks like a bit of a dynamic midfielder who can add a few goals. Looks to be the sort of main one they've brought in. Josh King from Everton. Let's see if he can do something. All of a sudden, he's 29. I feel like Josh King was 22 for like 10 years, and then suddenly he's 29. And Danny Rose, after almost being consigned to the scrap heap with Gary Cahill, the man's got a club again. So Danny Rose is popped up at Watford as well. And outs, I mean, none even worth mentioning. They've just cleared out a heap of trash. So fans should be excited about being back up in the Premier League and seeing Sarr. They've managed to keep Ismail Sarr, who ripped it up in the Championship last season, and they should be excited about seeing what he can do in the Premier League, because he was looking promising before they went down, and like nobody thought they were going to be able to hold on to him. But fantastic to see him back in the Premier League. What they should be nervous about, doing a Watford essentially, and just floating and sacking 5 managers in a season and then like just going back down. They want to avoid becoming a yo-yo club that they've been known for previously. So one to watch is my boy, Joao Pedro. He's got the 10. I talked him up a couple of seasons ago and he didn't really get a good go in the team, but he's had a good go in the Championship, and between him and Sarr have been the stars of that team. So really, really excited to see him in the Premier League and to see if he can really make the step up. Successful season is obviously staying up and going through, I would say, no more than 3 managers. I'm tipping them to stay up. As you know, I'm tipping all the promoted teams to stay up, and I'm picking Watford to do it very narrowly. They're going to finish in 17th.
Oof. Colby, I'm disappointed you didn't mention the fans could be excited to watch the Cycling GK YouTube channel now they're back in the Premier League.
Yes, Ben Foster. He could be leading a few cycling channels. I mean, Watford fans, I mean, I'm sure they've had their pelotons, and Ben Foster's been leading them in a few spin classes in the off season. So yeah, he'll be ready to go, I'd say.
Hopefully, Watford won't just be spinning their wheels and going back, not making any progress.
They'll just be cycling through managers. That's right.
I'm just excited to get into some Watford kit chat.
I mean, boys, let's talk about these. Let's talk about these kits, hey?
First of all, if we thought Jomo and Castore was out of the box, then what the fuck is Kelme doing in the Premier League?
Watford, they had a chance. They had a chance to do a Wellington Phoenix with their kits, but instead they did a Watford. These blurry horizontal lines with stake.com, which I can only assume is a betting sponsor.
It's a cryptocurrency betting website, so it's the best of both worlds.
But their away kit is not too bad. It's a bit of a red and yellow, and I don't mind that. It's a bit Belgium vibes. The away kit. So
it's Adelaide United vibes.
It's like if Pet Barn had a football club.
I feel like they should be sponsored by Nintendogs or something. Like,
yeah. Far out. And the third kit. I mean, the third kit actually is not too bad, but again, it's got that it's the black one, right, with the golden trim. It's got sports bet plastered on the top of it as well. So we've got another Southampton 2.0 issue here. But yeah, it's just that dog print. On the little puppy paw. Yeah, the puppy paw. It gets me. It gets me.
Kill Me for me is like a brand that I'd only ever seen on like amateur kits in Australia, and
It's
I just
futsal areas. Only they come in for making futsal boots.
well, I don't even see them in like bibs.
It's more kill me than kill me, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I was hoping you'd say that.
Oh shit!
What happened to the Rising Sun kit or the North Macedonian flag design? I see that everywhere as well.
I mean, it's gone just like that civilization.
Jeez.
R.I.P. Jesse and Macedonia.
Listeners, that was a joke. I just want to correct the record right now and just say that I respect your culture and your nationality.
I recognise your culture.
I apologise to the people of North Macedonia.
I'm not even going to let that one go to Twitter.
Oh, jeez. Oh, the Alioski fans. Jesus.
He's gone. He's yesterday's news, Jesse.
So I'm going to be talking West Ham now.
Moving over to the Czech Republic.
Nice, Tommy.
So the Dildo brothers, aka the Davids, David Sullivan and David Gold, have managed to hang on to David Moyes, aka the Moyesiah, for another season. Not many ins to talk about. Craig Dawson's loan has been turned into a permanent, and they've signed a couple of promising young players, including one from Chelsea's under-23s. Which, I mean, it wouldn't be this season if it wouldn't involve a Chelsea under-23 player signing onto your team. Still rumours of Milinkovic signing from Fiorentina, a young Serbian centre-back who's touted as quite the player. There was rumours of Kurt Zouma arriving as well, but doesn't look like that's going to happen. And there's been just West Ham's off seasons are just riddled with players that are rumoured to be joining, and it looks as though Milinkovic is likely to be the only player that's likely to be joining, I think, now. So, and that really, it's not great for West Ham because their squad was already pretty thin last season, and we've already had Felipe Anderson, who was out on loan last season. He's left. He's returned back to Lazio for, I think it was £35 million they lost on him. Just, pocket change, really. And Balbuena, he was also released as well. So the squad has gotten thinner this year. But in terms of my boy for this season, there's two young players who I'm tipping that I think actually could make a bit of an impression on the league this year. I think you might see Connor Coventry make an appearance for West Ham this year. He's a young player that's been out on loan the last couple of years, and I think he looks like a real talent. Sort of similar-ish to Declan Rice in sort of playing style, maybe not as sort of physical and good in the tackle.
I was going to say, is he going to debut for Ireland and then go off to England as well? Because he's eligible for both.
I think he is actually an Irish youth international. So, mate, it's on the cards, really, isn't it?
I feel like ditching Ireland for England is like big, like nope Drake areas, but like ditching Scotland for Australia is real, like Drake areas.
That's good. I like that. West Ham fans, I think, should be excited by they finished sixth last year, which is a great result, which means Europa League football. And because they finished sixth, it means they go straight into the group stage. So it does mean that they're not going to get knocked out again for the third time in a row by Astra Giurgiu. I think it is a Romanian team. Yes, a little bit of trivia for all the fans out there. West Ham got knocked out in consecutive years in 2015 and 2016 by the same Romanian team.
Very good team.
Yeah, wild, but yeah. So, look, guaranteed at least 6 games in the Europa League, which is going to be a lot of fun for West Ham fans. They'll be pretty nervous, though, about the distraction of Europa League football. Got a pretty thin squad. I think Declan Rice played 36 games last year, played 38 games the previous year. And Souček as well was just a behemoth as well, and just went on and on and on. So between those two guys, I think Connor Coventry is almost guaranteed to play some sort of a role this season.
Talking about Europa League, Tommy, the odds would be pretty short on West Ham fans making a fool of themselves on the continent.
Yep.
half of them won't be vaccinated, so they can't
leave.
In fact, the fans was the other thing I wanted to mention that I was nervous about. If there was one team I think that benefited from not having fans, it was West Ham, and fans are already talking about making a scene at the first home game of the season because there hasn't been enough transfer activity. So they're not even going to leave it until the results turn bad. They're just first game of the season. They're going to be making noise about getting, which look, I understand the negativity. I mean, I don't like the current board, but I mean, support the team and bitch about the owners on a different day other than match day, because just that negativity around match day has proven that it's just a bad thing for West Ham over the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, you would have thought after a whole year of lockdown that the Dildo brothers would have a bit of money to buy some players.
They all. And there actually has been a consortium that's been sort of floating around West Ham in the last week, making noise about buying them. I think they're an investment fund, and both the Anton and Rio Ferdinand were both sniffing around saying that they were legit and they had sort of the club's best interest at heart, but it doesn't look like they're going to go through with the purchase, which I don't think really surprises anyone at this stage. I mentioned Ben Johnson and Connor Commentary. I think they've both been fantastic in pre-season, and in terms of a successful finish, I think, European football would be fantastic again, but I think with the squad size that they've got, I just don't think it's possible. So I think finishing 12th, I think, is probably a little bit more realistic and probably what we can expect, I think, from West Ham this season.
Craig Dawson, that's
the signing.
Brought him in, and he was one of the best players for you guys last year.
Yeah, he was pretty decent.
He was good when he was good, but he did have the odd bad game. I remember he got sent off, I think it was against Newcastle, for just a shit tackle, and they ended up scoring from it anyway. So,
but he scored you a few goals, though.
He did. So, look, I think he's not a bad player to have around the squad. He's experienced, and he showed that for most of the time he was a good player.
Is Dawson going to fill in up front when Antonio gets injured? Because I remember in recent years, West Ham have had a glut of number 9s just rusting away on the bench, and now they don't appear to have any real out.
Well, they sold them all
other than Antonio. Yeah.
So Antonio is a number 9. To me, he's a number 9 in number only. He's actually wearing the number 9 now because he feels he's a striker. But I mean, 3 years ago he was playing right back for us under Slava Bilic. So. Right,
he might go right back to his poor form this season.
Might go right back to the rehab table.
Yeah, that's probably the bigger concern, is that the dude's got hamstrings made out of fairy floss. Yeah. So that's probably the most concern.
Delicious.
This is what you get after 2.5 hours.
Just a final word on Winston Reid.
Still there. That's unbelievable. What's he there?
I think he's done he's finished his loan at Nashville FC.
He was at Brentford last season for the second half of the season. I think he actually played some games for them too.
Yeah, so he's just starred for the Ollie Whites at the Olympics. So he's back, boys. He's back.
He's only 33 years old. I thought he was 40.
He's a Rooney 33 though.
Yeah.
I think hotel rooms he shouldn't be in.
All right. To wrap things up, the kit, the home kit's really good this year. I think it's pays homage to the sort of Di Canio era West Ham around 2000. Block claret with sort of blue panels on top of the shoulders. It's a winner for me and the fans as well. Everyone seems to like it. The away kit is blue and white stripes with a little bit of claret trim. It's a nice jersey, but it's a really sort of un-West Ham kit. I can't make up my mind whether or not I like it or not.
Tommy, I'm very anti the block color to put the sponsor on. I hate it.
I know what you mean.
Just keep the stripes.
Keep them clean.
And put the black logo over the top. Why do you need this white square to put a logo?
White out.
It would still work. It would still work. And
Tommy, I'm curious. Just on kits. I'm really curious as to whose number you're getting on the back, and who's leaving the club. Who's leaving the club? Are you getting right?
I was going to ask the exact same thing. I'm like, which player are you going to curse? and put on your
Who
back.
are you cursing? Go on, Tommy.
I have cursed every player that I've got in the last few years. I got Arnautovic, and then I got Allaire, and then I also got Tom Beatties a couple of years ago as well after he passed away. So fortunately, but no, look, I went for a safe.
You're due a Ben Rama. You're due a Ben Rama, aren't you?
No, I went a safe option this year. I went Fornals because I do like Fornals, and he's a bit of an underrated player, I think, in my opinion. And look, that's the other thing. I think there's no one sniffing around him. So
no, now they will be.
Yeah, they definitely will be. No,
the Middle East are calling for his name.
This is the test. This is the test for the Tommy curse. I like it. It's like this. It's like the Chelsea number 9 curse.
But look, I would give the West Ham jerseys 9 out of 10 irons this year because I think they're all great. So I'm not sure if everyone else agrees, but that's me. Next up is George with Wolves.
This is
it. Bring us home.
Yeah,
bring it home, George.
Wet sail, come on.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I'm all about.
Let's go.
Last year, Wolves finished sort of disappointing for them, 13th, with Nuno at the helm. They had a minus 16 goal difference, and from the season before, their expected goal differential was nearly 3 down. So I think that they became a bit stagnant, and it could be a good thing that they've got a new manager in Bruno Lage. But for those that don't know him, he basically doesn't have a huge amount of experience. He came in at Benfica. Yeah. He came in at Benfica in January 2019 and led them to win the title with 18 wins, 1 draw and 0 defeats since he came in. But that's his only 6 months effectively of full managerial experience. He's been an assistant at Sheffield Wednesday and Swansea before that. So not a hugely experienced manager, but he does have some title-winning credentials.
And speaks Portuguese as well. So.
Speaks Portuguese.
That's the key part for that job application.
Good communicator. Now, it's a couple of exciting ins. So you might have seen Trincao coming in from Barcelona on loan. So he was originally worth 35 million euros, but he's basically paid like 1,000 minutes last season. And so they'll be looking for him to step up. Jose Sarr, who's come in of the Olympiacos goalkeeper because Rui Patricio has now left. And there's a few rumours that Ruben Neves might be leaving, but that's not confirmed. So they've effectively lost their manager, brought a new manager in, and a new goalkeeper, and Trincao as well. And the other big in, I would say, is Jimenez, who's come back from his head injury.
Like a new signing.
Yeah, potentially. So things to be excited about. Well, Lage's side at Benfica scored 3.79 goals per match. So it might be a new free-flowing attacking football that we haven't seen at Wolves in a little while. Obviously, Pedro Neto as well had a great season last year, so they'd be looking for him to be linking up with Jimenez now he's back. So I think what's a successful finish for them? I think that they'll be trying to make the top 8. 13th was a bit disappointing. The year before that, they did a lot better when they came to the Premier League. So I think that with the resources around their squad, the talent they've got, and they won't have any European football to be played this year. So I think they'll focus on the Premier League, and I think they'll do pretty well. So in terms of the kits, it's a pretty stock standard orangey number that they usually not hugely creative, and also a large betting sponsor. They're
ticking all the boxes on this kit. They've got the Chinese betting company. They got Bitcoin on the sleeve, and then they've got a couple of horrible slogans printed on there. One says one pack, and the other one says better never stops.
Yeah.
So never.
Betting never stops. Betting never stops.
Betting never stops.
This is a Castore kit as well.
It is a Castore. So so not a lot to like about it. Not a lot to like about the kits, but I think a lot to like about Wolves. So
you did a better job than me, George. When I did the season review of Wolves last year, it needed to be referred to the coroner. It was right at the beginning of the we did it in reverse order, and it sucked the life out of the reviews. So I apologize, boys. But it was so depressing. But basically, I think there is a little bit of hope there. I have to agree. But I think the question is that, you know, there are players there that are left over from the last manager. So, you know, how does he sort of take those and then get some get a tune out of them? There's got to be the real question.
At least he can speak to them.
Yeah,
well, that's right. That's right. That he does come across as kind of like a signing as far as the managerial appointment that, you know, if they get it wrong, I think they'll get rid of him quick. So it's kind of like if he's only had 6 months, 6 or 7 months at Benfica, I think they basically feel they haven't got anything to lose, and they're like, if they start to feel like
situation.
Yeah, I think they
if he
feel
does
like
well, they've unearthed the gem. If he does poorly, it was a failed experiment. Now we'll go for someone tried and tested and try and
it
buys
them another 6 or 7 months for the Portuguese players to get English lessons. So
that'll be. And look, they have a pretty experienced squad. If you have a look at a lot of internationals and a lot of guys in their sort of late 20s, early 30s. So and obviously hoping for a bit of a better season for Adama Traore as well. One of the favourites on this pod.
The original no break.
Jimenez has scored in pre-season. I think it was a bit of a tap in, but it's still, I guess he's broken his duck, so that's good for him, and it does bode well, I guess, for Wolves this coming season.
Yep, and I do like the Neto, Podence, and Jimenez front three, with Traore somewhere around there as well.
I'll be very surprised if Trincao doesn't play a lot of minutes, though.
Just out of curiosity, boys, and you might not have done your Premier League table like I have, but where do you think they'll finish? Wolves
14th.
Yeah,
Same.
I've got Wolves lower, middle of the lower half.
Ooh, Damo's cards close to your chest there.
yeah, ambiguous. I've got them at 17th, so I've got them literally.
Whoa!
Literally, I've literally got them sandwiched between Crystal Palace in 16th and Southampton in 18th.
You've sucked the life out of that.
I've done it again. No, but I'm just curious as to where you guys think they'll finish, because if they're not going to finish in 17th, which is what I'm proposing, where do you guys think they'll finish? Because 14th, maybe.
Yeah. I've got them just in the bottom end of the top half.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
They'll have to find some goals. They'll have to find some goals.
I think that's the issue, is finding goals in a new system, because I think they're going to go to like a 4-4-2 or a 4-4-1-1 this season. So it's a bit of a change, and if it means that the likes of Neto and Trincao have got to play a lot more defensively because they're sitting a bit deeper, it doesn't necessarily bode particularly well for them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
Very good.
All right.
That's it. That's it.
Yep. So speaking of sucking the life out of the pod, that's pretty much what I just did, which is perfectly timed, because we've run out of teams to preview, and but we'll be back next week to talk about maybe not the whole of the first round, but at least a few games from Friday and Saturday nights. Fixtures though, so looking forward to being able to watch some Premier League, looking forward to dissecting some games as well, but until then, thanks for tuning in, and looking forward to catching up with everyone next week. Bye bye.
Come on.